Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sedgwick County Board of County Commission meeting. We're glad you're joining us. Those joining us online, those joining us on Facebook and YouTube, and then all of you bright, shiny faces joining us here in person. We're delighted that you're here today. If you take a peek when you walk through the door, if you look through the order of business, you could have picked up a meeting agenda packet. We always encourage you to do so and follow along with the work we're doing here at the Commission today. If you're curious about the supporting documents that we use to make decisions and review, you can always access all the supporting documents. I think this week there's about 180 supporting documents. It makes for a good read. You can access those at sedgwickcounty.org. We encourage you to do that today. Looking through the agenda, we have 4 proclamations, really exciting proclamations. And then after all 4 of those, if you can hang out, we'll go out into the lobby on the stairs here and take some pictures. So if you can just be patient with us, we want to be able to celebrate each proclamation and get some good pictures with everybody. So there's a lot to the agenda today. Why don't we get to work? I'll call the meeting to order for Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. I lied. Madam Clerk, first item, please.
Invocation to be observed by a moment of silence. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
Take a second. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Blubaugh.
Present.
Commissioner Wise.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Meitzner. Present. Chairman Beatty.
Present. Next item.
County announcements.
Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioner. Nicole Gibbs of Strategic Communications. Today is World Facilities Management Day. In honor of our team here at Sedgwick County, we've put together a short video to show you the many ways our facility staff keep things running smoothly.
Hello, my name is Andrew Deltz. I'm the facilities director. We handle new construction, remodel, the maintenance, the landscaping, basically everything that you need from acquiring property to building a building and maintaining it over the useful life of that structure. Right now, we are working with KDADS, the state of Kansas, to build a mental health hospital. It's a very unique collaboration and how our role is involved in that, and something that we're very excited to be a part of. But we also have a new ComCare crisis building that will be coming on here in about a year and a half. We also have a juvenile services building coming online. It's currently in design right now. We're very excited to continue the development of the juvenile programs and the juvenile complex.
We have 43 facilities that county is responsible, county-owned facilities, and then we have 8 leases that we do limited maintenance on, depending on what that lease entails. I think there's a misconception of maintenance is hanging pictures on walls and emptying trash and that type of thing.
We're just making sure they're not clogged up.
We have everything from entry-level maintenance positions with guys with no experience whatsoever when they start, up to licensed trade positions that tackle the heating and air and the plumbing and the electrical and take care of all that.
Every day is challenging. Yeah, you never know what you're going to get into until you clock in and start the day. From small things, from preventative maintenance, you know, changing filters or something, to a huge plumbing leak, to shutting the water off and doing a big piping repair, whatever that needs to be done.
So we have multiple teams in place, and they're responding in the middle of the night, on the weekends, over the holidays. It never stops.
You know, we're behind the scenes, but without a facilities maintenance, the building would quickly fall apart.
We have a very good team. There's a lot of good camaraderie and morale within our department.
It's like a big family.
We are very thankful for our behind-the-scenes heroes, especially when there's bugs crawling around, because that is a mandatory service.
Yeah, and I think Kendall, wave. Yeah, let's. I think Andrew's running around as well today, but you're right, Nicole. They do wonderful work with our buildings and our facilities, so we're deeply grateful for all the work they do here.
Indeed. Okay, Sedgwick County is knee-deep in running the 2026 Budget Simulator. It's an interactive, hands-on tool that encourages citizens to explore and influence how your tax dollars are budgeted and what it takes to balance important needs like public safety, roads, and community service. A quick statistics update. We have had 2,820 views on our simulator page. We've had over 150 submissions, and the average time to take the simulator is just over 6 minutes. And this is online now through Friday, May 23rd. We invite you to help prioritize our funding and resources for the next budget year. You can simply go to sedgwickcounty.org/budget simulator, and you can also find this information on our website and our social media channels. And for today's county good news, congratulations to the Sedgwick County Division of Finance for earning the Government Finance Officers Association Award for our outstanding achievement in popular annual financial reporting for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. They have received this award 19 times. This is one of the highest honors in governmental accounting and financial reporting. Thanks to our finance team for your continued dedication to transparency, accountability, and excellence in public service.
Yeah, very good. And I see Lindsay, our CFO, is up there. There's Brent, Deputy CFO, Hope Hernandez. She runs budget here, so let's give them a round.
You do get to see Lorian a lot doing budget, and Hope is our accounting director.
Lorian's there. There's Hope. She does all. Yeah.
Yes, apologies. And that's all I have for today. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, very good. Commissioner, any questions? Okay, Nicole, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Public agenda.
Okay, we had one person sign up for public agenda. He is a friend of the commission, so he knows the rules, but as you come up to the podium here, if you can just give your first and last name and address for the record, our friendly county clerk will give you 5 minutes. Okay, Mr. Andrew Crane with Guiding Pause.
Well, good morning. I had a couple of things to ask the commission, and was reading in the news and a couple of things on Amtrak coming or not going to be coming into Wichita, and seeing, what the state of Kansas and Sedgwick County is going to be doing, and to work with the great state of Texas. And because we do need rail service here in Wichita, it would be great for the senior citizens, the disability community, and the blind community, and then my second thing is the access. We will be also working on a letter to you guys real soon, and that the Access Advisory Board will be presenting that to you guys. So, and that will be coming to you, and I'm hoping that you guys will be working with the city of Wichita on access and all of that, and public transportation too. Any questions?
Okay, Andrew, appreciate that. Our kind of resident expert who works on a lot of Amtrak issues is Commissioner Meitzner, so if you have any feedback or insight, it'd be helpful.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And Andrew, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, there's been a little bit of news lately, and as you're well aware, the passenger rail effort in Kansas to connect Oklahoma City up through Wichita and Newton has been a big topic, and we've made a lot of progress. And but to summarize, I've been talking to KDOT, Kansas Department of Transportation, and they are still going forward full speed. We're on the next steps of process with FRA, Federal Rail Administration, and FRA is told us to keep pushing forward. The somewhat information we're having, basically what for the public, the reason that there's been a little bit of emotion on this is that there's an I-Corridor program. 61 applicants around the country applied with FRA. The next big step is to be approved as an I-Corridor route. There's about 250 applications around the country a couple years ago, and we were this route was one of 61 to get approved. The other one that was approved was a high-speed rail from Dallas to Houston. That's been controversial for 20 years. I used to work in Texas, and they've got land and all kinds of issues that distractions there. But that was approved, and then the FRA withdrew the funding for that one in Texas, and I think there was a little bit of emotion. So Texas said, well, if we don't have this, then we're going to stop supporting the Dallas to Oklahoma City segment that's been going on for 20 plus years, and that's the one that's going to connect. So I think it was a little more I don't want to put words in my mouth, but to me it appeared a little bit of a veiled threat to withhold their funding. They currently, Texas and Oklahoma split the difference. The biggest portion is that there's all the documents that say that as soon as they connect that, the ridership will maybe double at least, and the revenues will take care of a lot of the shortfall. So sorry for the long explanation, but Texas they have like a June 1st type of deadline, the way their government works, their sessions work, and but the group that handles all the financing of Texas projects and Texas government, so still as of just like transportation about that and
board for that
with the assistant. Andrew,
thanks. I'll make a motion to receive and apply.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner MEITZNER, 2025.
City of Wichita on meeting minutes from April 20.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Proclamations. Item.
Proclamations today. Is mental health awareness. Mental health plays in the way as individuals to raise awareness of those mental and behavioral health issues, help reduce the stigma so many experience. And whereas in 2023, over 12 million adults contemplated suicide, nearly 4 million adults made a plan for suicide, and 1.5 million adults attempted suicide. Over 49,000 adults died by suicide in 2023, which equates to one death every 11 minutes. And whereas there is a tremendous need for education, support, and care for those struggling with mental illness and suicidal thoughts. And whereas the Love Like Remy Foundation was established in memory of Remington Hope Young, Mays High graduate, and the University of Kansas student that took her life on May 22nd, 2022, at the young age of 20, after battling mental health issues for several years. And whereas grassroots organizations such as the Love Like Remy Foundation can assist those in need through awareness, education, and partnerships with other organizations to provide support to end the stigma and give resources to provide preventative care to those that are in need. Now, therefore, be resolved that I, Chairman Ryan Beatty, and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 22nd, 2025 as End the Stigma Day, And we call upon the citizens of Sedgwick County to increase awareness and understanding of mental health and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. Commissioners, you've heard the proclamation. I make a motion to approve it as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubow?
Aye.
Commissioner Wise?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Beatty?
Aye. And here to accept this proclamation is my friend Amy Young from the Love Like Remy Foundation. Amy, you're welcome to share some thoughts. And
thank you so much for this honor. It's been an amazing 2.5 years to almost 3, May 22nd, to actually end the stigma. I hope we can, and we're working on it. And it's things like this and proclamations like this that help us do that. So thank you so much for this honor. I really appreciate it.
yeah, Amy, this is a big deal for a lot of reasons, and the data itself is it's important, I think, for our community to understand all that's going on with our community in regards to mental illness, and particularly those that are contemplating suicide. I first met you in the summer of 2022, and I would just say that I contemplated what I even say today to you, but as a mom and as a dad of a young girl that took her life via suicide, I remember 60 days after that happened meeting with you and you being determined that you want to be active and you wanted to create a legacy for Remington. And the initial idea was to do this for student athletes and to go because you're a former student athlete, Randy's a former student athlete, Remington was a student athlete, she was a cheerleader at KU, but you wanted to make sure that that her legacy was going to impact people. And can I just say, without a shadow of a doubt, that her legacy is saving lives today.
Thank you so much.
So it's important that you know that. So would you introduce a couple of people from your board?
Yeah, I have, which I would call Remington's second parents, to be honest with you. First of all, her father is Randy Young right there. Also, Carmen and Jim Johnson. They are huge part of this whole thing. So, yeah, I appreciate everything they do. I couldn't do without them.
Yeah. And one of the big things, this foundation's only a couple years old, and they've already been able to raise enough support to put Pando Kids counselors into Mays Elementary schools. This was privately fundraised, and it was a heavy effort, but we're actually doing things. And full disclosure, I'm kind of an honorary member of the board, but one of the founding partners and members of Love Like Remy. I deeply care for your guys' foundation and the work that you do, and I mean it when I say that her legacy is saving lives today. I'm convinced of it. So
thanks so much.
Okay, Commissioner Blubow.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you very much for being here. This is a very important issue, and I appreciate our communications team and everything we can to continue to reach out to people. This is real. Well, there's no sense in trying to hide from it. I get calls all the time. Yesterday I got a call from a gentleman. One of his employees has had his son, 12-year-old son, in and out of calm care, and they're asking me, what do you do? What do you do? They keep having the same thoughts and the same issues. So I think this is one of the major issues that we need to address, and I appreciate your advocacy.
Yeah. And for those that are curious about resources, you can always call 988. 988 in this community, they'll direct you to a community for a crisis hotline, but they also have, we have several mental health mobile teams that are active. ComCare is expanding resources. We have our ComCare Crisis Center, a nearly $25 million project that is coming adjacent to the Biomed School. That's coming and happening right now, so we're serious about assisting and bringing resources to this community. And but it's a collaborative effort, and we need organizations like Love Like Remy to help us in that space, and I know that you're doing all that you can, and I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for a mama's heart.
Thank you so much.
Bless you guys.
Thanks.
Okay, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item C, proclamation declaring Law Week.
Okay, we've asked Commissioner Howell to read this proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a proclamation I will read. It says, whereas the rule of law is a cornerstone of our democracy, ensuring that all people, regardless of background or belief, are treated fairly with dignity and due process. The United States Constitution established a framework for balanced government, protecting individual rights while promoting the common good. And whereas generations of Americans have strengthened our legal and civic institutions through public service, participation in the democratic process, and a shared commitment to justice. The legal profession plays a vital role in upholding the rights and responsibilities enshrined in our laws, advocating for fairness and serving communities in times of need. And whereas civic education and engagement are essential to a healthy democracy, and informed citizens are the foundations of a just society, Law Week provides an opportunity to recognize the contributions of legal professionals, educators, and engaged citizens in building a stronger, more connected community. And whereas the Wichita Bar Association annually commemorates Law Week with educational programs, school visits, and public service initiatives throughout Sedgwick County to encourage all residents to better understand and appreciate the law. And whereas the theme for Law Day 2025 is the Constitution's promise, out of many, one. This reminds us that unity is achieved not through uniformity, but through shared principles and mutual respect. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Chairman Ryan Beatty and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 12th through the 16th of 2025 as Law Week, and we invite all members of our community to take part in this celebration by learning more about our legal system, participating in civic life, and honoring the contributions of those who work each day to uphold justice, equity, and the rule of law. Mr. Chairman, I would be very pleased to make a motion we would adopt this proclamation.
Yeah, I'll second that motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lubaugh.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise. Aye. Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner. Chairman Beatty.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I hope I'm saying this right, but I have Michelle May. Is she here? The president of Wichita Bar Association.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, may I make a couple comments?
Please.
Thank you. So, you know, in my dreams, I would like to be a lawyer. I just think it's the coolest profession.
We've noticed.
I know. I love the idea, but unfortunately, they didn't work out that way for me. So, but I do have a great appreciation for the law. In fact, I carry this with me everywhere I go. My Constitution, read it often, and I reference this constantly as I think about how to pass policy. And I just want to say we have a wonderful counselors team here at the county. We depend on them. They're excellent professionals. Thank you, Justin, and your team for what you do. I'm inspired by their great work. That the attorneys across our city, across our county, they are excellent, and they help people in so many different ways with state law and family law and criminal law. I really do appreciate the professionals that help our community be safe and work out the conflicts as they arise. And so I have a great appreciation for what these attorneys and people do. I would just say also, I think that in my personal opinion, maybe this isn't accurate or not, but it seems like civics education has kind of taken a back seat. When I was in school, it was a mandate. You had to take a class in government or civics or something, and I don't know that that's even happening any longer. I don't know if they teach Constitution necessarily in our schools anymore. I would advocate for our younger students, our families, to get engaged in the legislature, visit the State House, especially when they're in session, learn about how the three pillars of government work together, how county government is a very important part of government, and that believe it or not, we talk to people all the time who don't even know county government even exists. So they don't understand there's another level of government that provides services. And so civics and government and laws and all this actually makes our lives better in so many ways. And I appreciate the fact that we have a very good system that our founding fathers have created that we get to enjoy today. I think the best system in the world. And we get to enjoy wonderful safety and wonderful society because of what everyone has done. But it really hinges on again, the legal people in our world that understand how to create laws and if you will, resolve conflict. And so I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you guys do, and I really do appreciate commitment to making our lives better that way.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. My name is Michelle Mo Whitty, and I am the president of the Wichita Bar Association. I want to thank you for this proclamation today. You know, more than 50 years ago, President Eisenhower declared Law Day, a day where we could celebrate the rule of law and the foundational principle that it plays in our government. And as attorneys, we take an oath to uphold the Constitution and to support the rule of law. A principle which means that no one is above the law and everyone is entitled to protection under it. I thank all of you for this proclamation and for recognizing the steady, quiet work that so many of our members who are lawyers and judges do every day to uphold justice and these foundational principles. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Commissioner Meitzner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Michelle. I think I saw that you had the same proclamation from the city yesterday.
We did.
And so that's a good sign of the community support from the city and the county, and appreciate all that you do. And I want to say hi to our good friend, and I didn't know Verdina's part of your organization, but
she is our executive director, and she does an exceptional job every day.
She does? Well, when I worked with her at the city, I don't remember her being so exceptional.
Yeah.
She actually was a commissioner or council member of Blue Ball and Mize, a supervisor there for a while. She kept us under control and guidance, and she did a great job. And Verdina, great to see you, and I'm glad to know that you're involved in something. So, and you're supposed to be getting older. How come you don't look old? So anyway, great to see you. And congratulations, everybody. Okay,
Commissioner Blueball.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for what you're doing. And I just can't pass up the opportunity to say how nice it is to see your smiling face out there, Verdina. You know, you did a lot for Pete and I back in the day. And to echo his comments, how have you not aged since you left the city? Thank you.
Wonderful proclamation, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here to receive it.
Thank you all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Item D, proclamation declaring EMS Week.
Okay, I have asked Commissioner Meitzner to read this proclamation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to do so. Proclamation of Sedgwick County, Kansas. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and the dedicated paramedics and emergency medical technicians of Sedgwick County Emergency Medical Services are committed to provide exemplary medical care and ambulance transportation to the citizens of Sedgwick County. And whereas Sedgwick County EMS is ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency health care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas emergency medical services consists of emergency medical technicians, advanced emergency medical technicians, paramedics, EMS educators, EMS support staff, and EMS administrations. And whereas the members of Emergency Medical Services team, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continued education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Chairman Ryan Beatty and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through 24th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week. The 2025 theme for EMS Week is We Care for Everyone. Sedgwick County EMS is celebrating 50 years of service this year. I encourage the community to observe this week in appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Today, May 14th, 2025. Mr. Chairman, I've read the proclamation, and I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, second the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubaugh?
Aye.
Commissioner Wise?
Aye.
Commissioner Howe?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Beatty?
Aye.
And here to accept is the one and only leader of the group, Angela Fuller. Angela, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Chief Lanterman could not be here today to accept the proclamation, but I think this week's theme speaks volumes for exactly what we do, because we do care for everyone, the citizens of Sedgwick County and all of those that come in and visit and cross through our city and county each and every day. So we appreciate you taking the time. This is our 50th anniversary for this year. Next week, we will be celebrating our employees, and hopefully later in the year, we'll be providing a community-wide open house to showcase what we do. But we're very humble servants. We don't ask for a lot of praise, and so this is the week that we really do celebrate the work that all of our providers do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Angela, yeah. Would you like to have the group stand up and you?
Some.
Is steep in line based on just the needs of the community. You guys are continuing to have to scale, and you're doing it in a way to meet deadlines, to meet goals, and we're incredibly proud. EMS has a long history of being one of the more storied EMS departments across the country, and I think you're going to see from the commission that we're determined to keep it there. That as you guys are continuing, as the needs in this community continue to grow, that we're going to try to do everything we can to make sure you have the resources to scale to meet those needs. And what I so appreciate from leadership and from your staff is you're willing to get creative on some of these things. I just want to say publicly that I'm very, very grateful. The City of Wichita and the MAC program, the Multi-Agency Center for Homelessness down at 10th and Main, sorry. The first 100 days that the homeless shelter was open, EMS responded over 650 times in 100 days. It was rather significant. And instead of just wearing it and continue to do the same old thing, we got in the room, and with your leadership, we were able to do something very unique to actually put a designated route of sorts assigned to that area covering the MAC, and it significantly helped to triage and reduce transports and reduce some of the needs and meet the needs better for the community that's experiencing homelessness at the MAC. So I just want to thank you for your guys' leadership. I want to thank you that you always show up. I experienced your services just yesterday driving down Broadway with an individual an older gentleman that was laying in the middle of the road. Got a hold of 911. EMS was there in about 3 minutes, and they took over right away and calmed the situation and served this gentleman. So time and time again, upwards of 200 times a day, you guys show up. And you do it with incredible professional standards. And it's 50 years, and we're going to celebrate you the 50 year. We're going to celebrate you every day because of what you do, and today especially. We're going to celebrate everything EMS. So we appreciate you, Angela, and all the work that your team does.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, one more time. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Item E, proclamation declaring National Public Works Week.
Okay, we've asked Commissioner Wise to read this proclamation.
Okay, I am thrilled to read this proclamation of Sedgwick County, Kansas. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as streets, highways, bridges, facilities, drainage improvements, environmental services, household hazardous waste, and noxious weed control. And whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Sedgwick County. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these amenities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is especially dependent upon the efforts and skill of public work officials. And whereas it is in the public interest for citizens and civic leaders in Sedgwick County to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved that Ryan Chairman Ryan Beatty, and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 18th through the 24th of 2025 as National Public Works Week in Sedgwick County, and call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Chairman Ryan Beatty, I would like to move to approve the proclamation as read.
I'll second the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubow.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Commissioner Howe.
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner. Chairman Beatty.
Aye.
And here to accept this proclamation is our very own Lynn Packer, the Director and County Engineer for Sedgwick County Public Works.
Hey, Lynn.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for this proclamation in honor of National Public Works Weeks. Thank you. Since 1960, the American Public Works Association has sponsored National Public Works Week. This year's theme is people, purpose, and presence, and it truly captures what public works is all about. People is at the heart of everything we do. They had the dedicated professionals who show up every day in all conditions to keep our communities safe, connected, and thriving. Our purpose is clear, to serve the public by handling and maintaining the infrastructure that supports daily life, from reliable roads to stormwater systems to noxious weeds and environmental stewardship. And our presence is constant, whether in the background or on the front lines. We're always ready, always working, even when nobody is watching. I have some of our team here today representing our various departments in Public Works. Stand up. Yeah. On behalf of our entire team, thank you for recognizing the essential role of Public Works in advancing the quality of life for all. We're proud to serve, and we're proud to be part of a community that values and supports our work. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Lynn, how many roads and bridges do we maintaining in Sedgwick County?
So currently, right now, we're maintaining 583 miles of road and 605 bridges.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable work that you guys do. And one of the things that I want to attest to your leadership is, you know, when I first got on the county commission, I remember read on the org chart with the vacancies. And we just had a briefing from you and budget hearings yesterday. Where are we at now, total workforce percentage-wise in Public Works?
Right now, we are just at 90%, which is, I'm very proud to tell you, puts us in the green, and we're on our way with a very strong 2025 with hiring for this summer, and things are looking very positive.
They're looking positive indeed, and I think it's a credit to a lot of the leadership and a lot of the people doing this work. They're committed to this county. They're committed to doing this work, and over and over and over again from our constituents, we hear about the quality of work, but also the professionalism that your team works with, and how they're working with neighbors and working with organizations when they're doing road projects, particularly in Ridge Road, Hoover, some of these areas where you guys are active right now. We're hearing a lot of positive things, and so I just want to thank you, Lynn, but I want to thank your folks, because you're doing the work that we utilize every single day. Not everybody uses fire, not everybody uses the sheriff's office, hopefully, but everyone uses our roads, and people are using our bridges on a daily basis, and they can do so, and they can experience the quality, but they can experience the safety, and it's because of the quality staff that you have. So we're incredibly grateful for the work that you guys do. Commissioner Wise?
Yes, I will echo what Chairman Beatty just said. Lynn, you've been very helpful as a new commissioner, just with your quick responses, getting me up to speed on your plans and your outlook on roads and improvements that you have already approved and in line. That's been the most frequent communication I've had with my constituents, being a large district and a lot of county roads. So I just want to publicly thank you and your professionalism and ability to speak to constituents either directly or through me, and provide the information that I need to communicate out. So thank you very much.
Really good. And this people purpose presence for National Public Works Week, that'll be in the commission office here for the next week. So
that's correct.
We'll try not to knock it over. Okay, one more time. Okay, that's 4 wonderful proclamations. If you'll give us about 5 to 7 minutes, we want to take a pause and go out here on the steps and just take some pictures and help celebrate with these folks. So give us 5 minutes. Okay, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to take a quick break and go out for proclamations, which is a little bit more than what we're used to doing here on a meeting. But those 4 incredible proclamations, we want to take the time to celebrate each of those organizations and the proclamations that we declared. So, that being said, let's move on. Madam Clerk, next item.
Appointments, item F, resolution appointing John Crane to the Wichita-Sedgwick County Access Advisory Board.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. If it's okay with you, I propose taking items F and G together here as they're the same board. Madam Clerk read item F. Item G is a resolution reappointing Susan Turnus to the Access Advisory Board as Commissioner Bluebaugh's appointment. Item F is recommended by Commissioner Meitzner. Recommended action is to adopt both of those resolutions.
Okay, thank you, Justin, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm honored to appoint Mr. John Crane to the Access Advisory Board. John, it's been nice to meet you, and I'm so glad you're going to be involved. And thank you for doing this. In spite of your son, you know, it's okay, though. We like him, too. Chairman tells us we're supposed to like him, so we like him.
We love him. We love him.
We love him, okay. Anyway, so, John, thank you for serving. And I don't see Susan. Is Susan? I don't think Susan Turns is here, but I think that was Commissioner Bluebaugh's appointment. So I'll make a recommendation that we approve John Crane and Susan Turns to the advisory board, the Access Advisory Board.
Second. We have a motion. We have a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bluebough.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. There's Kelly Arnold, our county clerk, here to swear in Officer Crane.
Good morning, Commissioners. All right, please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Wichita-Sedgwick County Access Advisory Board, so help me God. I will. Now, if you'd like to say anything, you can go ahead.
My son says I have to say a few words to the commission, so I'll just say, I served the city of Wichita for 25 years as a police officer, and my last 10 years I spent as a school resource officer, where Mr. Ryan Beatty happened to have been a high school student. Give away my age a little bit, but
mine too.
I've been gone for 16 years. Also a good friend because I got to serve with Tom Stoltz here, fine man, and I was glad to see him come over to Sedgwick County. It's always been a dream of mine to see Sedgwick County and Wichita become a metropolitan area with all the other cities that surround us. And I think that's still to come. We need to do it. We need to work together more closely, and I think it would save us all a lot of money. So, but I am anxious to serve on this advisory board. I am the father of 2 disabled children. My son already spoke this morning. Andrew is blind and also mentally he has some problems. And I have a daughter who is also mentally and physically disabled, who lives in a group home close to us. And so this is something that I'm in the fight for. And I hope that my serving on this committee can be a help for Sedgwick County and its commissioners and everybody involved in helping our people who are disabled in our community. So I thank you for this appointment, and I plan to serve it well.
We certainly believe that you will, John. Thank you for a lifetime of serving your community, you and for advocating for people that have needs and are advocating for reforms that are very, very necessary, you and Andrew both. So thank you, sir. Okay, wonderful. Madam Clerk, we've gone through F and G. Moving on to new business. Next item, please.
New business, item H, a joint resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Sedgwick County, Kansas, and ordinance of the City of Wichita, Kansas, establishing Wichita-Sedgwick County Addiction Intervention Coalition.
Okay, hello, Armand.
Good morning, Commissioners. Armand Shukaf, Assistant County Counselor. Maybe that's loud. I have placed the copies of the drafted resolution on your table, Commissioners, for your review. review. I'm going to go over the purpose, responsibilities, and the composition here briefly. The purpose of the Wichita-Sedgwick County Addiction Intervention Coalition, I'm going to refer further as just the coalition, is to evaluate and recommend effective allocation of the municipal fund and addiction fund settlement funds to local government as a result of Kansas Fight Addiction Act. To this effect, the coalition shall provide advice and recommendations to the City Council of City of Wichita and the Board of the County Commissioners of Sedgwick County on matters pertaining to substance abuse prevention and treatment services, to assist in preparation of the request for proposal, request for bids, RFP, and subsequent evaluation of the respective responses for substance abuse prevention and treatment services funded by opioid settlement funds, and to monitor the effectiveness of such substance abuse prevention and treatment services and programs receiving settlement funds. The core responsibilities of this coalition would be, number one, to advise and make recommendations to the City Council of the City of Wichita and the Board of County Commissioners of Sedgwick County on the use of opioid settlement funds for substance abuse prevention and treatment services in alignment with the established strategic plan. Number two, to assist appropriate City of Wichita and Sedgwick County departments with preparation of requests for proposal, requests for bids for services contemplated under the strategic plan. Number three, review and evaluate responses to RFP, and make recommendations to respective government bodies or their designated purchasing departments as may be appropriate in order to facilitate selection and contracting for services contemplated under the strategic plan. Number four, monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of substance abuse prevention and treatment services funded and programs receiving opioid settlement funds. Number five, advise the City Council and City of Wichita, City Council of City of Wichita and the Board of the County Commissioners of Sedgwick County regarding the implementation of the strategic plan and make recommendations to allocate funding accordingly. The composition of this joint coalition would be not less than 11, no more than 15 members. The chairman of the BOCC may elect to appoint one commissioner of the BOCC to serve as a non-voting ex officio member of the coalition. City Council may elect to appoint one council member to serve as a non-voting ex officio member of the coalition. The members must reside within the confines of Sedgwick County. Appointments would be for a period of 2 years, with first appointment being through December 31st of 2027, which is a little bit less than 2 years, but this is done so that the next round of appointments can be done in January rather than in May, where historically county may have less standard board meetings. The number of appointments that a member could serve in a consecutive sequence is 2. There are standard clauses for the conflicts of interest embedded into the resolution, which will further be presumably bolstered by the bylaws that will be established. And with that said, if the county commissioners have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Amon, thank you so much. We appreciate this. And I might ask either you or Justin Wagner a clarifying question, and then maybe for a little background for the public to understand. Are we taking H&I separately of each other? I know we just talked a little bit about the committee.
Yes, Chairman Beatty. The H&I are separate in the sense that I is contingent on passing of H.
Understood. Okay. Justin or somebody might give just a quick synopsis of the opioid settlement funds, how we've gotten to this point, and what it is that we've tried to accomplish in collaboration with the City of Wichita.
Certainly, Chairman Justin Wagner, County Councilor. And I know, I believe both Commissioner Howell and Commissioner MEITZNER were commissioners at the time. But the county had engaged legal counsel, outside legal counsel, to assist with claims, along with many other municipalities around the country. And subsequent to that, and prior to some of these settlements being entered into on the national level, and for what it's worth for the board's awareness and the public's awareness, this litigation has been described as the most, I think the judge that was working it, if I remember correctly, described it as the most complex litigation in the United States court history, just because there's so many parties, so many issues, claims, going on here. During the course of that process, two or three different times, the Kansas Attorney General's office had proposed legislation to essentially control this more at the state level instead of the municipal level, and really across the country, attorney generals for various states were the parties that were entering into settlements for their states. So it wasn't unique to Kansas, and that ultimately the Kansas legislature did pass laws that essentially required any of this to go through the Kansas Attorney General's office. Cities and counties in Kansas that wanted to receive settlement funds on this would need to enter into an MOU with the Kansas Attorney General's office. The Board of County Commissioners, I believe it was approximately 5 or 6 years ago, did then enter into an MOU with the Kansas Attorney General's office. 25% of the settlement funds that the Attorney General receives are divided up between cities and counties. There's factors they look at. I believe it's based on population, if I remember correctly, and the portion that you are of the participating counties, which virtually every county and city of substantial size has participated in this across the state. So Sedgwick County receives those monies. There are limitations in terms of how it can be utilized. Those limitations under state law are certainly reflected in everything that Armand just described that this group will be working with. I mean, that's the core of all of this, is these monies have to be spent appropriately under Kansas law. I'd look to Armand if there's anything he wanted to supplement on this, but I think that's kind of a broad overview of the opioid settlement and why we are here today. And one last thing I'd add, Lindsay would probably appreciate this, is the county commissioners were instrumental in getting a law passed to very clearly put these settlement funds into a specified fund instead of being in the general fund where arguably they're meshed in with all kinds of other money. These monies are specifically set aside and identified in a special fund. We had to get legislation for that, and I think the commissioners wanted to be very transparent to the public in how this money is spent, and our legislature passed that law, so we do have very clear guidelines in terms of how this is spent. We track this very closely. I think that's something the board's been instrumental in.
I would just add that last year we decided to work through an RFP process with the city of Wichita to combine the funds, and I believe the funds estimated over the period of the next decade or so, estimated about $14 million that we are expecting to receive.
I believe it was closer to $15 million between
this is in collaboration with the city of Wichita, which is what this is trying to accomplish today. So, okay. A few questions. Commissioner Meitzner.
Yeah, thank you. Respectful of other comments that might be coming. Thanks for that summary. I want to also acknowledge Commissioner Howell and our finance and our legal team from taking the lead a few years ago, where we actually and Mike Papoon was involved at the time, and we actually took a lead to actually file on behalf of us as a separate entity in Sedgwick County because of the some timing issues, and we thought we were going to be a lead on this and get monies directly, and then it evolved into a statewide issue that we worked through. Thank you to everybody, and we agreed to cooperate and join with the state for a lot of good reasons. And I like what you said about this is specific for this, because I think maybe the tobacco settlement ended up getting into general funds, and this is a sign. So I just wanted to acknowledge and appreciate the history of how we got here. And I also want, I like the way this is set up, because I've been a part, and I think Commissioner Blubaugh has seen it as well. The liquor tax committee at the city side has a similar process where there's a committee that is in charge of making recommendations for final approval. There's a liquor tax locally that goes into a fund, and then the other uses can apply, or other entities can apply for services from that fund. And it's a very successful and a disciplined process that gets there. So it kind of duplicates that with a specialized committee that will review this and take applications for usage and set the parameters, and then they'll propose to us and to the city to approve distribution of such. And this will be. And lastly, I'm good. I know we had a lot of conversation about it, but with our ENBANC, but the county of Sedgwick had nearly $100 million in COVID money that we had to worked extensively through on that program, and it was audit proof, and it was distributed correctly, followed up by ARPA money to the tune of $98 million or something like that, which we did the same. The city did the same. So these entities went through nearly $300 million of COVID settlement stuff, and so I'm confident that as the city and county we can handle distribution of $2 or $3 million now and $14 million over the next few years. So thank you for letting me say a few words.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, Commissioner Blueball.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And I've experienced with this as well from the city whenever we decided to join the lawsuit, and I'm ready to see that money put to good use, and I appreciate the consideration of possibly being on this board because it's something very important to me. It's something I have seen my whole life, and there's a better way, and we need to help folks out.
That's good. Okay, Commissioner Wise. Thank you, Commissioner.
Just a really quick question. Will we have our legal counsel or someone from our legal team attending these meetings so that we can ensure that we're following the guidance and guidelines to comply?
That's a good question, Commissioner Wise. Again, Justin Wagner, County Councilor. I believe Armand's going to be our legal counsel who's working on that. He's been advising on this process for the past few months, and I believe both he and probably an attorney for the city of Wichita will both be advising them, is my understanding.
Okay. And I guess just another thought, as we look at this group of folks and professionals that are in this, whether it is a mastermind group to help set the plan and have the check-ins with them, or is this something that they're going to be meeting on regularly and advising us or reporting back to us on a regular basis, or have we set those yet?
We have not set those yet, Commissioner. I think once we get the group together, we will determine that. If it runs like liquor tax, I believe they will meet monthly or quarterly, depending on what the will of the group is, and they will report back to this body as they hand out dollars. Any dollar handed out by this group or advised by this group has to be voted on by this body and the city body as well. So they'll be reporting directly back to you.
Very good. Appreciate that. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. When you say hand out money, they make recommendations to the governing board.
They'll make recommendations to this body.
Okay. And again, the total amount is around $15 million over what period of time?
I believe it's over the period of 10 years.
The next 10 years or so?
That is correct.
And we have the greatest portion of that has already been received. I understand that Wichita and Sedgwick County together have about $5.5 million. Is that right?
I think it's inaccurate to say the greatest portion has been received. I'm saying
is what's left is going to be smaller payments each year going forward. So the total might be $15 million, but since we've received more than $5 million already, that leaves about $10 million over 10 years.
So, Commissioners, Lindsay Perverso, your CFO, right now the balance in the fund is about $2.5 million that's been received over the last 2.5 years. So I would say we're probably on track to receive about the same amount of money each year, but you're right, the distributions are smaller.
That doesn't sound right. Again, that's the county distribution, correct? Right. Okay, the city has another distribution. I thought when we had the en banc, they said there was a total of $5.5 million.
Justin, do you want to speak to what they're expecting versus what
Commissioner Howell, I think you're right, Commissioner Howell, that they have slightly more money than we do. As I think we've talked about before, the board about 2 years ago had approved a couple of different expenditures because us and the city receive about the same proportion from the state. I think the city had spent slightly less than we did. I think they had one small expenditure. I think we had forensic science and a sheriff expenditure that were slightly more than what they'd spent. So,
in fact, during the en banc, I thought they said we had 5.5 out of 15.5, and they expected $10 million over the next 15 years. Am I not correct in my memory there?
And Commissioner Howell, again, my recollection is the 15-year time frame as well. I think that you're right on that. Again, it's been a bit since I paid attention to the length on that. I think most of these there's several settlements here, and some of them are still being resolved and worked out. But some of them have been front-loaded to where they will pay slightly more on the front end as opposed to not paying out over the full 15-year term. But if you aggregate them together, I think the longest settlements go to 15 years. Some of them will fall off before then.
Lindsay, before you go too far, let me ask, in our public health part of our budgeting, just again, I don't need exact numbers, just give me a ballpark, but how much do we spend roughly on substance abuse treatments in Sedgwick County. We expend money for mental health and substance abuse. What do we do per year, roughly?
Probably,
just a guess.
If I'm recalling all the programs, including grants, just specifically for substance abuse, also including scope, probably about $7 million. But I will,
year.
Yes, for addiction. I mean everything, though.
Right. And again, even in doing that, if I understand correctly, you don't have to answer this question. This might be for someone else, but I just talked to a professional just yesterday in a meeting, and I brought some of this topic up, and I said, it's my understanding there are people out there that would seek help if there was resources available. But right now, where basically all the dollars are being spent, there's more people that would want to receive services if they had more access to more dollars. So I don't know that we're, again, if there were more dollars available, I think there's actually more folks out there that would like to get help. And so that's really not a question for you necessarily, but if anybody wants to validate that comment, that'd be fine. If not, then I see Tim's maybe coming. So as he comes, I would say this, that the reason we pooled the money together is because rather than the city making decisions to spend their funds and the county making decisions to spend their funds differently, they wanted to pool the money because it would just be ideally a lot better to have, essentially one better, more powerful program to meet, the needs of the community, so to speak, by working together. Tim, you want to validate or not validate?
Yes, Commissioner.
What I just said.
Tim Kaufman, Deputy County Manager. I think it's fair to say that substance abuse treatment in general in the state of Kansas is underfunded. Yeah. There are more people that would seek and receive services if there was additional funding available.
Okay, so again, I think we all agree, and I'll say also, I know that people who talk about homelessness and mental health and substance abuse probably would never conclude what I'm going to say here next, but I would say out of those three things, substance abuse, which is, I think it starts out with experimenting, playing around with drugs, and you get caught and you get addicted. Things get worse over time, and eventually you lose your job, you lose your income stream. That leads to depression and mental illness, and then it leads to homelessness. And so if you think about the thing that caused all of that to happen, I think substance abuse is the one thing. If you address substance abuse, you are in effect addressing homelessness and mental illness as well. Substance abuse is, my opinion, the greatest need for this money. And the one provider in Sedgwick County that has the money that's being invested to provide substance abuse treatments flows through Sedgwick County. And again, so if you wanted to pool the money together to do more of that, I would think that Sedgwick County, having the experience that we have and knowing that there's a shortage of money, knowing how much money's in the bank and how much money's coming, and again, let me just say, maybe there's more settlements coming we don't know about. But right now, what we do know, the estimate's about $15 million, of which we've received about a third of that. That leaves about $10 million over the next 12, 13, 14 years. If you just divide that out, we're looking at somewhere between $600,000 to $900,000 a year, maybe. We're already invested $7 million providing grant funds and block grants to providers that provide substance abuse treatments. We also do it through our own agencies. And so at the end of the day, I wish that these dollars would focus on substance abuse and that the county's experienced. We are focused. We know what we're doing. If you want to pool the money, I think that's a great idea. I think the county should lead. And if not, I actually mentioned this to the ENBANC, trying to simplify government, trying to have functional consolidation and shared services. I just didn't give our money to Wichita. I don't think anybody agrees with me on this, because I think the greatest need for these dollars is in Wichita. I think the county would do it better. But having said that, I think that we don't need, my personal opinion, 12 elected officials and a committee of 15 people to figure out how to spend $700,000 a year. We're already spending $7 million a year. We are creating levels of government today. In my opinion, it's going to slow it down. You're going to get a lot of different opinions in how to divide that money. And again, what are you doing? You're dividing the money. You're not keeping it together. You're finding, just like you mentioned a minute ago, the liquor tax, we find other ways to spend money. That was exactly the words you used. Other ways to spend the money. And my opinion is that's not what's needed here. What we need to do is get the money to people who need the substance abuse treatments right now. And I'm actually ashamed we're sitting here for years with money in the bank and haven't addressed this already. So my personal opinion is this committee is unnecessary. We have good staff, we have experience, we have agency leaders, we have community partners. We already know folks that are providing these services. We could essentially offer a block grant opportunity for those that provide greatest services for the most people, and we would actually measure the performance of these grants. To me, that's a much more direct way of getting the money out immediately. And we focused on substance abuse. So with that, I'm sorry. I don't agree with my colleagues. I don't think this is the best thing we can do today. I'm sorry. I wish we would get the money that we have to be effective to help people struggling with substance abuse right this very minute. You might help the homeless situation. You might help the mental health situation. You might get these folks back to work or reunited with their families. This is a moral issue, in my opinion. And the fact is, we're creating a committee that's going to find different ways of spending this money. At the ENBANC, one of the things on that list was homelessness. Not that that's not important. It is. But this money could be consumed, frankly, with the shortage for substance abuse victims of our community. And those substance abuse victims impact countless others. I heard one of my colleagues says he has struggled, he has experience with through family members or friends or whatever. My dad was a lifelong alcoholic. He died a few years back struggling with this. And I have other family members that struggle with substance abuse. And I think we can do better. I think this is a great opportunity, and we're doing what the government does best. We're making it complicated. And I don't think this is the right way to go. So I'll be voting no, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Question for clarity, Justin. Can we give the City of Wichita the money?
We actually did confer with the Attorney General's office on this, and that is permissible. I believe there's some, I think there were some follow-up questions we had, but you can give the money, but in giving the money, you may give up your discretion to be able, in terms of how it's spent. Right now, what's proposed in the joint ordinance and resolution that Armand presented would enable each governing body to have discretion over any expenditure, meaning that this, an expenditure wouldn't go forward unless a will of the board would be to approve it.
Okay, appreciate that. Well, I am very much in favor of people that are experts in this space helping us guide this process. I can assure you that there's 5 commissioners up here that are not experts in this space. And I know that to be true because I know opioids are ravaging this community, and we have a ComCare budget of $60 million, and previous commissions have never allocated 1 penny to medical detox at this point. And that's the only way that you really overcome opioid addiction. So although there's been a lot of dollars flowing, it hasn't actually gotten to the point of actually curing and helping those that are significantly in need. $60 million budget at ComCare, not one time has anybody up here said, you know what, we should be doing more medical detox. And that's what's going to come of some of these dollars. And it's also what's going to come of the ComCare Crisis Center, where we're going to have medical detox beds for those that are experiencing opioid addiction. So I do think that this is a really complex challenge for this community. And I do think there's a lot of people in this community, and we'll be talking in item I about some of these resident experts that are doing work, and this is not just ComCare and SAC doing work in substance use treatment in this community. And I think we need their voice at the table. I don't think it slows anything down. I think it actually helps. If we're going to disperse $15 million into a community, we should probably do it with a lot of strategy. We should probably bring people to the table that know what they're doing and actually are in the trench and experiencing this in a real way. So again, I think that we've got to do more in this community to help address opioid addiction, and I think this is a step that has been given to us because of a settlement, and it needs to be spent strategically. It needs to be spent in ways where they're being advised by people that actually do this work in the community. So I will gleefully be supporting this resolution. Commissioner Howe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple points of clarification. Again, I was the only commissioner here when we started this. It was back in December of 2017. Wichita started theirs about 2 years later, about September of 2019. The state of Kansas was about the same time that Wichita did that, and then Johnson County, for example, was even a couple years after that. So Sedgwick County government was a leader in this litigation. We were one of the first entities across this entire country jumped on board. We did this because we recognized the cost in terms of jail and sheriff and forensic science and ComCare, our schools. The cost is just being borne all across this community. So that's the history of this. I've thought about this a long time. I'm not an expert, so let me clarify, I'm not an expert. But we have Salvation Army that does medical detox. We have SAC that does medical detox. We have ComCare that does. We have hospitals that do as well. And I do know there are experts all around us that would be glad to receive money and provide services if they had the funding. So I'm not suggesting that we are experts. I'm suggesting we get the money out there to provide good things. And again, here's the problem. When you bring these folks in that are providers to an advisory committee, and I think that's the intent. I know you mentioned conflict of interest, but at the end of the day, I hope that the conflict of interest is stated that if you are on this committee and you're advocating for how to divide the funds, that you cannot be a recipient of those funds or your organization that you represent. If that doesn't say that, then my opinion is we have a significant problem with people basically on the inside advocating for their own organization to receive the dollars to provide those services. I think it's problematic. I believe that's really why the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Coalition, we tried for about 5 years, did not actually deliver as I think they should have, because we had people in the room that were advocating for their own organization rather than coming together and agreeing on what needs to be done for this community. That conflict, in my opinion, was unnecessary, and I don't want to repeat that today. So, again, you're welcome to correct me, Counselor, but if the conflict of interest is not stated such that anybody who's on this board, that their organization should be prohibited from competing for these dollars. You're welcome to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. To address this matter, the actual language states that each member of the coalition shall disclose any conflict of interest as defined in the bylaws to be adopted by the coalition, as may arise in connection with matters being considered by the coalition, and shall refrain from discussing or voting on any such matters. No member of the coalition shall participate in discussions pertaining to nor vote on matters for which the member has a conflict of interest. The bylaws probably would further specify what the conflict of interest is and how we can make it more granular so that the experts that are on this board can still discuss matters on which their companies or their businesses aren't bidding, but if they're anticipating that there's going to be a bid, they should not be discussing or voting on this.
Well, thank you for that clarification. So just so the record's clear, I'm not opposing using this money to help people. I'm opposing this plan because I think this plan is convoluted. It is going to slow it down, and I think it's going to have way too many people trying to figure out how to divide a small amount of money when really we can get forward. We can move forward right now. The county is the leading expert providing funding for these types of services, not the county commissioners specifically, but we have great people who work with the county and work as partners for the county that provide these services, and I think I trust them. So my advocacy today is not to create the committee. I wish that Wichita would just grant their funds to Sedgwick County. We could get these funds at work right now, and we could block grant these funds or provide services through one of our existing partners, and they do good work. And again, I think the idea of having performance measures is great. I just don't think we need to have another advisory board that, in my opinion, is going to slow this down. In fact, meeting, you mentioned monthly or quarterly. I don't see they can possibly meet often enough under either one of those schedules to actually really be experts and drive this topic forward. What I think they're going to do is they're going to have they'll be receiving information, but they're not really driving the plan, and that's another concern of mine. If this advisory board's going to do this, they need to meet often to actually, if you will, develop the plan themselves rather than simply receive data every quarter. Thank you again.
Okay. Item I is on the members, and I would just clarify the members that we do lean into for advice are the members that are on this board. Second point of clarity, if you do not have insurance in this county, it is virtually impossible for you to get a medical detox solution. Virtually impossible. So we're going to try to make sure that that is applicable to people. So Commissioner MEITZNER.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the discussion. I know we all have our opinions about these kind of things, and so, but with that said, I think it's been well talked about and well considered, and this is a thoughtful process, in my opinion. So I'm going to make a motion to adopt the resolution, obtain the necessary signatures, and cause the joint resolution to be published once the official county and city newspaper.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubaugh?
Aye.
Commissioner Wise?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
No.
Commissioner MEITZNER?
Aye.
Chairman Beatty?
Aye. Double aye. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item I, a joint resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Sedgwick County, Kansas, and ordinance of the City of Wichita, Kansas, appointing members to the Wichita-Sedgwick County Addiction Intervention Coalition.
Manager Stoltz.
Chairman, good morning. Commission, good morning. Tom Stoltz, County Manager's Office. As a result of the en banc on April 29th, the bodies of the boards requested that both city manager and county manager come together and created a list of names for the 11-person board that would be the advisory board. We have done that over the last week. The list that we just put on the board is the 11 advisory board members plus Commissioner Bluebaugh. Commissioner Bluebaugh is a non-voting ex officio. Let me just go quickly with who these people are. I'll start with top left. Kenny Barker is a homeless program supervisor with the VA hospital. Heath Batchelor is the CEO of Cherry Creek Treatment Center. Philip Brownlee, we all know as Sedgwick County Medical Society Director. Dr. Seth Shahan is a Ascension Hospital resident physician. Rena Cole is a ComCare employee that was requested by the city, by Judge Jones at the city. David Dahl, we all know Judge Dahl. He's a retired district court judge. Randy Ecker is affiliated with Seventh Direction, is also a licensed addiction counselor. Dr. Claire Gregory is a WSU assistant professor of addiction counseling. Steve Kanaw is with ABC Health Group and actually contacted the commission and asked to be part of this group, and his credentials speak highly. Tanya LeBrun is a licensed addiction counselor for Recovery Unlimited. Captain Matt Lynch gives us a law enforcement presence from the Sheriff's Department. And then, of course, Commissioner Bluebaugh is ex officio representing this commission. So that's is Mr. Layton and I's recommendation to the board. I believe the city will probably hear this same list next Tuesday. So I request that you receive and file, or I'm sorry, that you would vote for this board or make changes or additions for me to present to the city manager.
Thank you, Tom. One question is, originally there was a discussion about SAC being on there. Was there an intentional reason why SAC was left off?
We talked about that. We know that SAC, as has already been talked about by the commission, will be applying for a lot of this money consistently. So though we understand and we have rules for conflict, we know that they will be a frequent flyer of application of this money. We thought best is to keep them out.
Okay, good. Okay, questions on this list of individuals on the Opioid Advisory Council? And I would just say I appreciate, Commissioner Bluebaugh, your willingness to settle in on the ex officio role. Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution and approve the Opioid Advisory Council.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bluebaugh.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Commissioner Howe.
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Okay, very good. I appreciate the work doing that and the expediency at which we moved that through. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Item J, Sedgwick County Solid Waste Management Plan Annual Update 2025.
Susan, we've seen a lot of you lately. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see all of you. Susan Erlenwine, Environmental Resources Director. Every year we come by and talk about the solid waste plan. The Solid Waste Committee has approved this plan at their meeting, and I'd like to recognize the chair of that committee, Nikki Soyce, is right here, and she's spent well over a decade being the chair of this committee and doing a great job of handling that many appointments. The Kansas Department of Health and Environment asked us to put in the plan any changes since the last annual update, any demographics that have changed, list of the solid waste committee members, the current solid waste system and updated data, which you'll see some graphs about, and any recommendations. So as you well know, Sedgwick County consists of 20 incorporated cities. 2 of those are cities of the first class, Wichita and Derby, and 26 unincorporated townships. The anticipated population will be just under 532,000 by 2030. The municipal solid waste is the polite way of saying trash. And so we talk about the companies that collect your curbside trash collection. There are 6 residential curbside haulers in Sedgwick County. And when we license them every year, now we give them a survey to determine how many customers they actually serve. This first slide is on the commercial side of, do they have commercial customers? And if so, how many of those also recycle? And we're not listing the names of the companies, but just applied letters to each one. You can see that this hauler B has no commercial customers. They just do residential. And you can see the numbers on the others. The largest number is 9,320 commercial customers, and of those, 1,496 also have recycling. For the residential side customers, we also ask them if they supply different size trash carts. And so you can see there's one company that actually has a 35-gallon cart. So if someone has a recycling cart, they can put more in that, less in their trash cart, and that saves them money. The pricing on these should be less for the 35-gallon and most for the 95-gallon cart. So you can see the distribution there, that some companies do offer 65 and 95-gallon carts as well. My suggestion to residents is to contact haulers, especially if you live in Wichita, which lets the customer pick who picks up their trash and shop around. One thing we did notice, though, that looking at the appraiser's list of how many households we have in Sedgwick County, over 191,000, and that does not include apartments, and look at the number of trash carts that were reported by the companies, it doesn't match. So obviously there are households out there that do not have trash collection, over 37,000 of them. So we have a gap there, and then I listed under there, we have cities with contracts for one hauler. That accounts for just under 24,000 households. There's over 11,000 from second and third class cities that do not have a contract with one hauler. And you have the unincorporated number of households, just over 12,400, and over 143,700 in the city of Wichita. So there's a gap out there where people do not have trash collection. Either they are self-hauling or we've got a problem in the county with illegal dumping. Here's a list of the 14 cities that currently have a franchise or contract agreement with one company, which means they only have one trash collector coming into their city every week. This provides less wear and tear on the roads, and it drives the price down because it's more efficient. A hauler's picking up every house on the block instead of one house driving 2 blocks to the next customer. So it condenses it and brings the prices down. Here's a list of the 6 cities that do not have some form of a franchise or trash agreement. The asterisk next to Wichita is they do have contracts with the companies, but it's not one company. So they license the companies and have contracts saying you can provide trash service in Wichita. A few years back, the county commissioners created this statement to put in our solid waste plan, and it's that county leaders support local communities' efforts to reduce the costs and increase services for solid waste collection. Sedgwick County recognizes that cities should make their own decisions in regards to waste disposal. Sedgwick County does recognize the advantage of waste hauler contracts that will reduce road wear and tear, reduce air emissions, reduce disposal costs, and increase services such as curbside recycling recycling, volume-based trash rates, and bulky waste collections. And some of the cities that have contracts actually have a contract for free coupon for bulky waste collection. I believe Derby has that in their contract. Solid waste disposal in 2024, the amount of material that was trash that was disposed of in our community was just over 395,000 tons. That is an increase from 2033. This graph shows 5 years worth of data. 2022 and 2023 were low. 2024 is going back up to what we saw prior to that. And I'd say 2020, 21, we still have the COVID effect of people cleaning out and throwing a lot of stuff away because they were at home. In 2024, we had over 13,000 tons of materials recycled, which is a 1.6% decrease from 23. And in our plan, the county commissioners, one of the statements, Sedgwick County encourages citizens to recycle and reduce waste. And you can see the 5-year trend. 2020 was pretty high. Then it kind of leveled out and is just bouncing back and forth. We are working with the recycling facilities to educate the public on proper recycling. And I thank Commissioner Howe for going on the field trip to the recycling facility. I think the committee learned a lot at that trip, but what we were trying to accomplish there is, what are the myths about, oh, you cannot throw away a pizza box because it has grease in it? Yes, you can. Oh, you have to clean out use a lot of water before you recycle a jar. No, you do not, because the processing facilities do it themselves, where this goes to other outlets. So we're trying to get the data out by working with them, and as they change any rules, we need to get the information out to our public on what's the best way to recycle so the material is not being thrown away needlessly. Composting facilities, there are 2 locations in Sedgwick County. One of them is up at 53rd Street North, just west of Broadway, and the other is Brooks landfill, which used to be a municipal solid waste landfill. They now take material that they compost. Also, Nudge Compost collects food waste from some businesses and homes. So from all of that, over 6,000 tons was diverted from the landfill and used to make compost for people to collect. Some cities also have some brush piles and compost sites specific for their residents. Another thing we have in the county is a county-owned household hazardous waste facility. In 24, there were 5,580 participants that came by and dropped off chemicals, and that was over 1 million pounds of hazardous chemicals that were dropped off last year. As you can see from the photo, we have a covered area where we can unload the material that's brought in, take it in and sort it. We also have small quantity generators, which are businesses that produce a small amount of hazardous waste, and they're under the federal and state limits. So they can bring the material to our household hazardous waste facility, and we had just under 36,700 pounds of that material delivered last year. We do charge the businesses the exact amount that it's going to cost us to get rid of the material. We also have a swap and shop area that when we have a material comes in that you can read the label, the product inside is good, it's not dried up paint or it's gone bad some other way, we can put it out on the shelves, and it's free collection for citizens of Sedgwick County. Last year, we had over 207,000 pounds reclaimed by 8,833 customers. And I will say, That facility was closed end of September through the end of the year and is still closed due to the expansion of the facility. So the swap and shop saves us money. We do not pay our contractor to take the hazardous chemicals. The people who get it from the swap and shop are not paying, so everybody's winning on this. We saved over $47,000 in '24, and since 2020 to '24, we did some calculations. We saved over $357,000 from the swap and shop. So it's good for the public and good for the county. The expansion hopefully will be done sometime in late this month or early in June. So we had the swap and shop closed. We still had people drop off material, but it was out in parking lot areas south of our building. So the expansion will allow for a larger swap and shop area, meaning more items, which will save the county more money in the long run, and increase safety for staff and customers. I could go into a lot of stories on customers entering where they shouldn't and going back into the chemical areas where they are not allowed. So this is better for everybody. And increased education means that we can get the word out more, such as we have tours of the facility already. We can have more tours, training of staff, and outreach like you see the example on the right. We're working with the communications department to have tear-off pads that we can put out. This example for paint, we can do it for companies that sell paint or the big box stores where they have paint areas. If someone has leftover paint, they can bring it to our facility for free. We're also doing this for drug stores and pharmacies, and we plan to do this for auto shops. So letting people know your used oil that you're changing, bring it to our facility for free. So this is a way to get the word out. This will increase our customers and increase the amount of materials in the swap and shop. We also, last year in August, started recycling our plastic containers and our metal. And you can see there, just in a small amount of time, over 2,000 pounds of plastic containers and over 3,000 of metal were recycled. We also make money off of the metal that we recycle, and it saves dumpster space, which means the dumpster's picked up less often, and that saves us money. We also have always recycled used oil, lead-acid batteries, and rechargeable batteries. Remote collection, we had 4 remote sites. The commissioners pick a site every year, and we go out into the community to better serve them, and we have those events. So we had just under 1,500 vehicles bring in over 151,000 pounds of household hazardous waste at those locations that are listed. Textron East Campus, which is Beechcraft, Spirit Aero Systems, Sedgwick County Zoo, and Hayesville Municipal Building. 5-year trend on household hazardous waste volume. That first number over on the left, 2020, just under 1,800,000 pounds was during COVID. And so people were staying home, cleaning out, and brought in a lot of material. It's leveled off after that and is starting back up again. And number of customers you see, pretty high in the COVID years and is pretty flat. The green line is the swap and shop customers. And this is the sort of thing we saw coming in during COVID. And we still see it coming in. You have truckloads full, trailers full of people dropping off hazardous waste. And here's 2 different drop-offs of bottles of mercury. Liquid mercury is dangerous, and these are cases where grandpa died and they're cleaning out the house and they find this jar of mercury in the basement. So people have to be very careful about how they transport that to our facility. Oops, let me back up one. We also get grenades pipe bombs, unmarked containers, illegal drugs. The middle picture right here, that's bags of marijuana that were dropped off. We get needles and sharps, which we have to be careful about. We get radioactive material, tear gas. This is a tear gas container here on the right. Lithium batteries, which the upper right picture shows laptop on fire. Lithium batteries are very dangerous and can cause a lot of fires. So we've even had human waste come in. Like a guy brought in a bottle with his tonsils in it. It's like, we don't take those. So it's a large variety that our guys have to work with. Another type of waste is construction and demolition, which is your 2x4s, drywalls, bricks, concrete, basically inert material that can go to a special construction and demolition landfill that doesn't have all of the requirements of a municipal solid waste landfill. So in 24, over 200,000 tons were received and buried at 2 C&D landfills we have in Sedgwick County, which is a slight decrease from 23. And you can see the bar graph of the last 5 years. This is also a sign of economics. If everything's going great, you have more building going on, maybe more destruction, and you have more C&D material. Bulky waste are your large items that will not fit in your trash cans, such as couches, appliances, the window. You can work with your hauler to call them and say, I have these items, how much more will it cost for you to pick them up? If you just put them out there by your cart, you'll still find them there the next morning. You have to work with the hauler, and they do charge extra for all of those. The county's been offering since 2012 a bulky waste coupon to let people take materials up to 1,000 pounds to the transfer station for disposal for free. We have a good amount of people who apply for those. Over 76,000 coupons have been offered. Unfortunately, not everybody uses them. They see something like that, get it, thinking they might want to use it, and then they don't. In 2025, the beginning of this year, we issued over 2,500 coupons. Storm debris management, there's a plan out there that we work with emergency management and others, public works. This overall was approved in 2017. We're just reminding the state that that's been done. And let me back up a second. How we used to get rid of material, just put brush on the surface and burn it, which causes air pollution. County in 2015, we purchased an air curtain burner where you have a trench in the ground, the material's put in there, the burner blows wind into it, air into it, and it circulates, and very little smoke is produced, so it's environmentally friendly. We also have a tub grinder that we use especially after ice storms or windstorms or tornadoes, and we've taken it out to many cities to help them with storm events. There is a $250,000 contingency for storm debris that we have in my budget, but it can only be used by commissioner approval after a storm event. Christmas tree recycling, there are 22 sites across the county. 10 of those are within city of Wichita limits. And these are mainly parks or schools or churches that have a site that they allow us to take material to. In 24, 2,402 trees were dumped off at these sites and chipped into mulch. And we've done over 128,000 since we started this program. The mulch is a good soil additive, and a lot of people call us during this time period wondering, where can I go pick up the mulch? I want it for my gardens. We also work with townships. We provide no dumping signs. All they have to do is call my department, contact us, and we will provide them with signs. They provide the post and put it up where they have problems. So illegal dumping attracts animals, especially rodents. You can have a lot of problems if they have chemicals in there and leaking into the soil. So we try to stop illegal dumping, and it can cause road hazards. So we work with the townships. They collect illegal dumping, and we give them vouchers so the solid waste fee pays for that illegal dumping material. We had over 75,000 pounds in 2024 and over 2 million pounds since we began this process. Special cleanup, we work with Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department and the Aging Department for cleanups. Aging is mainly hoarding cases that we're involved in, but if you look at the picture on the bottom left, that's a before, and the one on the bottom right is after. We have people who will be fined by MABCD for having a lot of material around the property that neighbors have complained about. They may not have the funds to dispose of it, but they're willing to do it and clean up and provide labor or have friends come over. And so that's how we work this. We pay for the dumpster while they provide the labor. And in 24, we cleaned up 90 properties through the dumpsters and another 67 where it wasn't a lot of material, and we gave them a voucher where they put it in their own vehicle or trailer to take it for disposal. Our big event each year is either the tire event in odd number years or the electronic waste event in even number years. So we had a tire event this year, and we're planning an electronic waste event next year. The amount of tires we have received from the events since 2000 is shown on this table. The very first event in 2000 was from Kansas Department of Health and Environment grant that we received, and we had it at the North Yard and the County West Yard. After that, we've only had it at the County West Yard, and we've constantly had phone calls from people asking about when are you going to have tires or e-waste events. In total, we've collected over 1,336,000 tires from 24,000 vehicles. And to show you some photos of the event we just had in 2025, we said no business were allowed at this event, and we had a limit of 50 tires per vehicle. So you can see people like the one on the right did a strapping around it to try to keep tires from falling off as they're driving, which would have been road hazards if they did fall off. We had people coming in with the tires strapped in or standing. We had a cyber truck come in twice and dropping off. You'd think they could afford to get rid of the tires, but I guess they had no money left after buying the truck. And then the one on the right is from a township that was nearby. This wasn't his only trip. He brought quite a few tires with the grapple in front, bringing the tires in. And when we talk about how many tires we receive, is passenger tire equivalents. And the photo on the left, I think, shows it well, that you have large tires. That one on top could be worth 15 or so passenger tires. They charge us by the weight, because if you just did it per tire, they're not equivalent. So they can figure out from the weight how many tires that the big ones are worth, and that's what numbers we report, the equivalents to a regular passenger tire. And you can see here a lot of tires being brought in. This guy had a couple big ones and small ones, and we kept getting more and more. So the pile kept stacking up, and we don't have the final number yet for the number of tires. And here you can see we had a visitor stop by and help unload the tires as they were coming in. Okay, you see it now? Okay. And you can see the tire up there in the air. All right. Had to get some humor in here. All right. Also, we report to the state medical waste and who collects it, so they know that it's being taken care of in our community. So Stericycle has a medical waste transfer station, and they also collect waste from hospitals, veterinarians, dentist offices, doctor's offices, and takes care of that. We have the DEA program to collect medical waste that the county participates in. They usually have a location out at the zoo and our household hazardous waste facility. That just happened a couple weeks ago. And we have pharmaceutical companies that will take waste back at their counters. So there are 15 total pharmacies in Sedgwick County that take back waste. And we have MedSafe boxes that you see here on the right is like a mailbox. You pull the drawer open, you put your medicines in, close it, and you're done. We have to have it at police stations because there could be controlled substances there. You can see the list of the 7 cities that have been working with us on this, and I think it's great that they're cooperating with us and allowing these MedSafes at their police stations. We do public education, presentations at schools. Recently, there was Earth Day, and staff went out to do presentations at the zoo and at Botanica. There are a lot of things going on at some schools as well. We give tours at the Household Hazardous Waste Facility, and we have our website with a lot of information and a recycling guide where you can click on what material you're interested in getting rid of, and it gives a list of companies that will take it and their contact information. There are companies that may take it that have said we don't want to be on your list because they can't handle a lot of material. And the state wants to know about permits for solid waste or grants, and we had none from June of 24 to, I'm assuming, June of 25. No one's contacted us about any applications for grants or permit. And after my presentation, you'll be receiving a presentation on the solid waste fee. And on that's why I have on this date, you approve it or you don't approve it, whatever you do, here is the X's saying, when this is approved, I will fill in the facts. Same with the tire event. When we get the final number, I will fill in the facts. So we have a lot of different services we provide through that solid waste fee. I've just reviewed most of them. And to show you how many users we've had for each of these and how many years we've been doing it, and the number of pounds that we receive, the tires is still in red because we don't have the final number of pounds yet. So overall, we've serviced 855,904 customers and received over 109 million pounds of materials through these services. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Susan, appreciate that. For the public's awareness, we've been briefed on this. We did a staff meeting on this and really walked through this program in detail. So this was really for the public's view. But we appreciate all the work. And Nikki, we appreciate, it sounds like a decade of service on this board and this committee. So thank you so much for that. But okay, Commissioner Meissner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and thanks Susan, for this presentation again. I think, as the chairman referenced, we had an extensive presentation, even in a healthy discussion, and many suggestions. If the public wants to see more of that, they can watch yesterday's deal. But with that, I would like to make a motion to approve the solid waste plan in the 2025 and the recommendations of the Solid Waste Committee.
Okay, we have a motion. I'll second the motion. We have a comment. Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just we haven't talked about the next item yet, and it's a fee change, and I just want to say when that comes up, I'll be supporting that. But and primarily because it's lowering fees, I think that's probably good. Our fees have changed drastically over the years, up and down, and this will be the lowest it's been, I think, since even before I was a county commissioner. So this is actually for residential, at least. I am concerned about some of the way we're spending some of this money. So again, for the public's sake, I don't know if they'll listen to the meeting yesterday or not. They might. But just looking at some of these pictures, I guess I have a couple of questions. You mentioned we do a sharps collection for doctors' offices and stuff.
A company, Stericycle, does. We don't.
How are they paid for? How is that paid?
The doctor's office pays the company who does it.
So why is that so what do we have to do with that?
The state requires us to list that someone is taking care of the medical waste.
All right, that helps. Very good. Looking at some of these pictures, I don't know if we want to go through any of the pictures or not, but right before we saw Yoda, or is that what his name is there? Yoda. The pictures right before Yoda, you can see enormous numbers of tires coming in on flatbed trailers and even dump trucks. And so it makes me wonder, where are these tires coming from? Mm-hmm. I think the intent is if there's a resident out there that has tires in the garage or the backyard, they maybe had a first-hand box and they want to get rid of those tires, this is an opportunity for them to get rid of those tires. Maybe they retained the tires because they thought maybe they would use them as a spare, or they would use them for a tire swing, or they have a little bit of wear left on them. Maybe if I need tires in the future, I could maybe sell these or use these on a different vehicle or something. So there's reasons why people might think those things, and then they change their mind. They want to get rid of them. So this is an opportunity to clear out your garage and clean up the community, so these tires don't end up in the backyard collecting water, creating mosquitoes, and all that type of stuff. I think the program is well-intentioned, but what I see in these pictures is
I can help.
It appears to be businesses. Go ahead, ma'am.
The very first day of the event is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, we wanted to mainly have the farmers and the townships and the cities and other large trucks come in and try to keep them away from the smaller cars that we wanted mainly Friday and Saturday. We saw a lot of trucks come in from the townships. The school district 259, we saw trucks from them. I've seen trucks from the airport, from Wichita Parks departments. So they're bringing in tires that have been illegally dumped in their areas, and we encourage them to save it up for this event. Even though they could get rid of it through the transfer station earlier, it cost us more. We have a better dollar amount here at the event.
I do admit I have driven down gravel roads and seen a tire here and there, okay, no question. But this is a lot of tires. So for 259, for example, did they bring in a lot of tires or just a few?
It was a truck full.
I guess I'm wondering, are they buying tires and installing tires in their own facility, if you will, and saving up the used tires and bringing those in at this event to save some money, or is this actually tires that were dumped on their property?
I did not question them on...
I just look at these...
I don't want it to appear like I'm accusing them of something.
I guess I understand. Some of the tires are very large, like they're tires for...
Well, and like I said, we had tractors tractor tires from farmers. And
again, so maybe they are farmers, but maybe they're construction companies and things like that. So in either case, I would hope these are people who not dump tires on the gravel roads. So this is, again, an opportunity.
I will tell you that Chaplin Tire, the company that we contract with for this event, they got the low bid. He was out there every day of this event, which was very good because he could point out ages of tires, and KDHE hired their company early on to try to clean up horrible tire spots, around the state. And he said every week he has several calls from people who have bought property out in the unincorporated areas. They want to build their dream home out there, and as they start, they discover a whole bunch of buried tires, and a lot of tires we saw, you could tell, were covered with dirt. So he said it's something that they can't really take a semi-truck back to their property to do this, that people end up having to dig it all out themselves. So I'm sure we got some of those as well, but it was nice having him there to identify tires and saying, like, that's older than we are and stuff like that.
And I think that's a more appropriate use of a program like this. It's anecdotal. What appears to me is there's a lot of businesses that are using this free service paid for by other people. And again, maybe I can be a little bit more committed to my opinion, and then you can feel comfortable saying that. But again, I don't feel good because, again, the size of these tires, the mixture of these tires, again, just to point out, we had, we don't have the numbers from this last round, I guess, but we do have numbers going back, and if an average family that brought in tires had 4 vehicles that had replaced all the wheels on 4 vehicles, there would be 4 times that many tires that came in. So it is a lot of tires. And
it is.
I believe the government should do the things that people can't do for themselves. And I believe that dumping tires on roads and someone else's property is an illegal act. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is we're spending tax dollars to essentially, we think we're keeping that from happening, but I think it still happens, number one. Number two, I think we're creating what we call a free service that's paid for by other people. So the number of people who are using this service is a very small fraction of the people who pay in. And so you have a few people receiving a benefit, and a lot of people are paying into this benefit, and they're not receiving the service. And I think we're incentivizing, if you will, bad behavior. So I'm just concerned about this program specifically. I think it's well-intentioned. I've been doing this every other year. I think is again concerning. We didn't do it until 2000. I don't know how people got rid of tires before 2000, but we didn't do it before then. And then there was a couple of 4-year periods, a 7-year period, and then we had 5 2-year periods. So I think we're in the habit now of doing this. And so I just want to question whether or not we are, in fact, incentivizing bad behavior. And again, people who are paying for it are not necessarily getting the benefit. Other people are taking advantage of other taxpayers. We didn't talk about the mattress program today yet. I didn't hear you say that.
No, the Solid Waste Committee had recommended that we do a mattress coupon, and we will be doing it in fall of this year as a pilot project to see how it goes. So that's why it's not mentioned in this plan, because it hasn't happened yet.
Again, my concern
It'll be in next year's plan.
My concern is there's people who have the money to take care of their own issue. They don't need the government to help them. Again, so I think we're doing something we think is going to solve the problem. I don't think that there's going to necessarily save people from dropping mattresses in parking lots and gravel roads. Every once in a while, I see one on the highway. I presume it came untied and fell off the car. I don't know if they're being dumped on these highways, but I do see one once in a while. So I don't know. I'm not sure what we'll see differently if that program goes forward. But to be clear, it's going to take 30,000 households to pay for this 3,000 coupons, and again, those 30,000 households would love to see a tax cut. So I just think that we are creating an idea that the government has to solve a problem. I don't think it's actually solving the problem. And some people who actually have the ability to solve this on their own are going to use the free service because it's offered to them. So once again, I love the plan overall. I think you do a great job. There's a lot of things that HHW does I absolutely am passionate for and very much in favor. I'd encourage anybody who, I don't even know how they would get this tour, but to experience the recycling center in Hutchinson and see what happens out in Plum Thicket, the landfill. It is incredible.
I'm glad you went on that trip.
The Hutchinson thing, they're using computers and technology and cameras to, basically using robots to sort the stuff. And it is amazing how fast they move and how good they work. So I would just say it was a great experience. I think we ought to encourage our 6 cities that are not doing similar things like what Derby and other cities are doing. We have some opportunities to improve solid waste in this county. I think that statement was well worded, but even though I say I believe that statement, I still would like to maybe in another way just say this is really a good way to handle this problem. I would encourage these other 6 other cities to come alongside. I think it's the right thing to do, and it actually saves wear and tear on the streets. You only have carts out one day rather than every day. There's a lot of reasons to do this. In fact, that actually lowers the cost. So I love the right to make my own choice on who I want to be my provider. But on the other hand, if I could cut my trash bill in half and save some tax money on repairing streets, we ought to be, really encouraging that to be a good solution. So with that, I don't disagree with most of the plan, but because of those 2 programs and some concerns about, I think, abuse on these offers, I would like to vote no today on the plan. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Bluebow.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And this is the 3rd time, I've heard the back and forth, the pros and the cons of this. I think it's a great plan. I'm excited to see it. And if anyone wants more details about it, I'd encourage them to go back and look at our staff meeting yesterday because we had an in-depth discussion about it as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Commissioner
Bluebow.
Aye.
Commissioner Wise. Commissioner Howell.
No.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Susan, thank you again, and thank you, Nikki, and the committee and all the work you guys do. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Or, gosh, I blacked out, sorry. Next item, please.
Item K, adoption of a resolution establishing solid waste fees for 2026.
Sorry about that, Carly. We were calling roll again, so welcome.
Hello. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Carly Sanchez, Principal Management Analyst with the Budget Office. Since 2000, Sedgwick County has imposed solid waste fees which provide partial funding for the program Susan Erlenwine just described for you. State law provides that if the county chooses to impose a solid waste fee, it must do so before July 1st for the fee to be effective for the following year. The action before you today is to impose a solid waste fee for 2026. The fee varies according to classifications. Residential property owners pay a fixed amount per dwelling unit, and commercial and industrial property owners pay a fixed amount based on their waste generation characteristics for their particular business or parcels of property. In 2025, fees were restructured to take into account the amount and type of waste generated by residential and non-residential properties, as well as those who use the solid waste programs. The new tiers expanded residential properties from 1 tier to 3 tiers, and then assigned non-residential properties to new tiers 1 through 5. The resolution proposed for 2026 suggests a range of fees that are a decrease from the fees in 2025. The base residential unit would be $4 per unit. High density residential is $3.20 per unit. High density with additional use is $5 per unit. Tier 1 is $25 per parcel. Tier 2 is $60 per parcel. Tier 3 is $100 per parcel. Tier 4 is $200 per parcel. And Tier 5 is $400 per parcel. Those fees will be collected through the county's property tax bills. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. If not, I recommend you adopt the resolution that is before you.
Okay, Carly, appreciate that. Just to note, there were adjustments made, and this was also in the staff meeting that we had, and I'd encourage the public to listen to it. One of the big things that we found from last year's adoption fees was that city parks, was placed in a way, because of the land-based codes, it was placed in a way to where many of our city partners were paying an undue burden, frankly. I think we all understood that they were probably paying more than what they were actually needed to be paying in the program. So this is an effort to fix that. And I appreciate the work of the committee and that they got back in and listened to the commission and listened to the community. So I do appreciate that. And again, Commissioner Howell mentioned it, but since his time on the commission, this is particularly for residential, one of the lowest rates that we've had. So we're working really hard to keep these fees low. Okay, any questions? No. Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to adopt and establish the solid waste fees for 2026.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bluebow. Commissioner Wise.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Okay. Carly, thank you so much. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item O, real estate purchase agreement for property located at 610 North Main.
Hello, Tanya Cole.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tanya Cole, Assistant County Manager. I am here this morning to present a real estate contract on a potential building for an administration building and a subsequent lease agreement. So if you recall, on April 1st, we discussed the history of the need for an administration building, and I don't have those slides for you here today, but if you could just indulge me a little bit, I'll just talk about the history of that. So for several years, probably going on at least about a decade, we had talked about the need for public safety and the judicial entities needing space in the courthouse. And so we started in earnest in 2019 providing that space for the district attorney and the sheriffs. And so what we did was we built an expansion on the jail to provide space for the sheriff and move them out of the second and third floor of the courthouse. And then we provided that expansion space on the second and third floor for the DA. And then in 2022, we provided space for the courts. We gave them 4 additional courtrooms, and we provided space for magistrate judges on the 11th floor, and then we provided the full space of the second and third floor in the courthouse for the DA. To be able to do that, we moved out all of administration out of the courthouse and into the Ruffin building. So we have been in this space since 2022 in lease space. And so you've seen this slide often, and this is our space summary for county administration. Recently, this has been in the red, and I think it's good news because we've reduced our space there, and that's because we're able to put records management into the new elections office. And so that space has been reduced from 84,400 square feet to 76,559 gross space that we'll need for county administration. And that makes up 9 departments. And so I'll just read off those departments. That is County Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, County Commissioner, County Manager, Facilities, Finance, Human Resources, Register of Deeds, and County Treasurer. So a total of 9 departments. And then we've also talked about having a lobby, courthouse, police screening, and a cafe in a county administration building. So again, I'll just go back. That is a total of 76,559 square feet for these 9 departments in a county administration building. We talked about at April 1st at that staff meeting, the county building options, envision building, what we're going to talk about today, the existing building, and then we've often talked about the new construction option at 3rd and Main. Most recently, what commissioners talked about was the option for City of Wichita City Hall to have some space there on several floors. There's also the option of a City Wichita, the old library, and then most recently we have been, the owner of the Riverside Hospital has come to the county and offered the Riverside Hospital also as an option for the administration building. So those are all options currently for the county administration building. But what we're here to talk about, or what I'm here to talk about today, is the Envision building and the vacant lot. The Envision building has 73,000 square feet, and then we're also talking about a vacant lot to the east there to provide parking. We need about 180 stalls for all of the employees that will be parking there, as well as visitors to the county administration building. So I'm going to first talk about the purchase agreement, and then I'll get into the lease agreement. So the purchase price for this agreement is $11,950,000. The purchase price is actually $12,250,000 minus $300,000 for the 1-year lease, bringing that purchase price to $11,950,000. And I'll get into the lease here in a little bit. We have agreed to a 120-day due diligence, and I do want to get into a little bit of the due diligence because I do want to express what we'll be doing in the due diligence portion. So we're going to kind of take two tracks during the due diligence portion. One track will be to understand what the remodel costs would be. The other track will be to understand the condition of the building. The internal reviews will happen through MABCD. They'll do a cursory evaluation, and then we'll ask environmental resources to do a phase 1 environmental site assessment. So that'll happen with our own departments. And then external review, we'll get Schaefer, Johnson, Cox, and Fry, and they will do an architectural condition evaluation. So that will include a general assessment, site improvements, building envelope, windows, and perimeter wall. We'll have our on-call vendor, our roofing vendor, to come out there and take a look at the roofs. We'll look at interior finishes. We'll look at ADA compliance. We'll look at stairs, and we'll have our on-call elevator vendor come out and look at the elevators. Schaefer, Johnson, Cox, and Fry will also do a structural condition evaluation, HVAC and plumbing evaluation, and then an electrical condition evaluation. So that is what will happen during the 120 days due diligence. Also, as part of the purchase agreement, we'll put down $50,000 of earnest money, and that will be 5 days that we'll have to deposit that following the effective date of the contract. Closing will be within 30 days of the expiration of the inspection period, and then Sedgwick County will pay 3% commission of the purchase price, again that $11,950,000, to our county broker, who is represented by Rachel Lang and Hunter LeMunyon of Lang Real Estate. And then once we close, we will immediately go into design, and once design is complete, then we would go into construction. Okay, for the lease agreement, this is a $1 per year. This is a leaseback term for 12 months, so we are leasing back to Envision. It is at $16 a square foot, and that encompasses 18,750 square feet. That's for floors 1 and 2 of the building. It is $300,000 annual cost, and that has, again, I'm stating that's being taken off of the purchase price. So the purchase price is $12,250,000 minus the $300,000 for that 1-year lease. So again, that's taken off. So purchase price reflects $11,950,000. So we, as the landlord, will cover utilities and maintenance, and then the tenant, Envision, will cover janitorial within their own space, so those 2 floors. And I'm going to turn this over to Lindsay to speak on the funding.
Thank you, Tanya. So again, for the record, Lindsay Poruso, your CFO. So again, as Tanya reiterated, we moved into this building in 2022 in order to use some ARPA funds in order to repurpose the county, the main courthouse, to be used for truly public safety related items. So we were able to use ARPA funds to pay for the lease on this property at least through 2024 when the commission fully exhausted those ARPA funds. So that did, though, force there to be a conversation of, did the commission want to continue to lease space and pay for that with general fund dollars going forward, or did the commission want to choose to own a property? And so the decision was made formally in June of 2024, so just about this time last year, that the commission did not want to lease space long term. They wanted to either buy and remodel an existing property or construct a new facility. And so, as you heard during your good news portion, recognizing facilities maintenance, there are a tremendous amount of projects happening right now that are construction projects. Several of those larger ones are going to be funded with bond proceeds. And the way the county traditionally does business is we will do the project work, basically borrow against the general fund to pay for that, and then reimburse ourselves for precise costs at the end of the project so that we don't risk over bonding or under bonding. And what we found, though, was with an administration building that at the time was projected to be around $27 million, in addition to all of those other projects that we are currently working on, there just was too much pressure on the general fund to do all of that. And so what you'll see is a description here. In July of 2024, you all authorized a specific resolution that said we will either move forward with buying and constructing or buying and remodeling a county administration building. And we asked you to authorize then a bond sale that would be held to just cover half of that cost so that we could at least get started with that. And then we thought we could manage the second half of the cost through some cash and then actually bond additional funds for that additional funding. Now, because the commission did end ARPA early, we were able to do $32 million of revenue replacement from ARPA funds into the county general fund in 2024. And what you'll see is the final bullet on this slide is that you were actually able to have another $9.7 million essentially earmarked for CIP use. Now, some of that could go toward overages on the ComCare crisis building beyond what has already been authorized for bond funding. We also think some of those funds are available to be used on an admin building. So now it is no longer our intention to issue the second half of those bonds for an administration building. You now have essentially all of the cash either sitting in debt proceeds or sitting in cash in that CIP fund to pay for this project. And I know Tanya will speak to the fact that, you know, we've heard your message loud and clear about revising that budget down. And so we're trying to make that work with whatever projects. So that's the funding piece of this. I'm happy to stand for questions now, or we can let Tanya finish her presentation. I'll be happy to stand by for questions at the end.
Okay, why don't we let Tanya finish up and we'll try to knock all this out at once.
I've got one more slide, so I'm close. So last piece is just the cost analysis process. So you will allow me the due diligence, and I will come back before the expiration of that due diligence. I'm hoping to come back within 90 days. Again, we've got that 120 days. So I would come back in mid-August with precise or as close to precise cost estimates on those options and allow you, the commission, to make an informed decision on the best option for the county administration building. And then just to follow up with what Lindsay just spoke to in the funding piece, and that is up to $23 million for a county administration building. So, and with that, my last slide then is to recommend approval of the real estate contract and authorize the chairman to sign. And I will just make mention that Mark Eaton with Envision CFO, he is here also as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Good. Okay, Tanya, thank you for the presentation and for all the work that's gone into this. You mentioned it earlier, but this is over a decade of discussions around the administration building. Long before I got here, this has been a topic of discussion here at the County Commission. So, and also I want to welcome you, Mark. Glad you're here today, and all the work with Envision, all that you do in the community as well. So, okay, discussion. Commissioner Meitzner.
Thank you, and Tanya, thank you. Mark, thanks for you and your group to work with us. I know it's been a lot of stuff. Thanks to the new commissioners for coming in and trying to jump in and catch up. It's not been easy rehashing 10 years. My question is, I'm supportive of the motion to move forward on the purchase and the agreement and the due diligence. I'm questioning, is this motion, does it include up to, I'm nervous about the $23 million. Do we even have to put a $23 million in there? Okay, can we do this without saying up to $23 million, please?
So,
the last slide.
That is just information at this point. You are not, what you are approving today is only a purchase agreement in the amounts that have been identified. We would have to make further adjustments to a CIP based on, again, when Tanya comes back to you with due diligence figures and those costs, that would be the appropriate time for us to talk about the total budget for the project.
Okay, so during the due diligence, the commission can have a chance to kind of maybe be updated, and maybe I think there's been a little discussion about how much programming costs. maybe a little bit of a ceiling that we might be more comfortable with. I don't know what that number is, but that's the 23 million in the slide there at the last is what I was concerned with. So.
Sure, Commissioners. On that slide, all I was doing was just mirroring the funding slide before that. My intention, when I come back to you, would be to help you understand in the Envision building what we would be seeing for remodel cost, as well as anything that would require fixes in the building as far as the building assessment, and then as well to show you what we would see for other options for an administration building and what those costs might be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so to be clear for the public, the due diligence, you'll bring back a real cost estimate so we know exactly what it is that we're dealing with. We know what the purchase price is,
correct,
lease agreement. We understand those things, but you'll come back a recommendation of what the remodeling cost options are. Options is in plural. Like these are, we can go this route, we can go this route, we can go this route. We're going to see more options. This is in no way a final purchase price and no commitment investment into the building. There's still work to be done.
That's correct. That is our intent when we go into due diligence on a building.
Okay, good. Okay, Commissioner Blueball.
Thank you, Chairman. Just trying to get a better understanding, because majority of this I've watched from not being elected and trying to understand everything. I understand we looked at a new build. We have explored some other options. Riverside Hospital is an option. Commissioner Howe mentioned building over there at Webb and Douglas. Mm-hmm. And just kind of looking at the prices of all these buildings, and I think we're looking around $62 a square foot for the 80,000 square feet over at Douglas and Webb. I think the Riverside Hospital, we're looking at around $25, $30 a square foot. And regardless, it seems like any building we go into, we're going to have a considerable amount of remodeling and reconfigure. I'm looking at the Envision building, and right now, even before we start looking at what it's going to cost us to remodel and improve, I think we're looking at around $157 a square foot. So I'm just trying to understand what the thought processes was when the negotiations to get us to this purchase agreement.
Well, let me just tell you that we have looked at a lot of buildings, and the point that we look at buildings is we try to understand what the best fit is for a county administration building. And so if our point in looking at a county administration building is we're trying to understand what would be the best fit as well as the best cost. So we have looked at probably a dozen buildings in our time. When we go to do due diligence and we come back to the commission, we bring back costs for what a remodel would be for that building as well as a building assessment, what it would take to get a building up to the best quality for that building. So as we have looked at a dozen buildings, we have to take all of that into consideration. So we've looked at, we have previously looked at, the commission previously looked at Riverside Hospital. We've previously looked at several other buildings. And and I can name those off, I brought that back in, if you'll recall, I mentioned that at staff meeting before. So the commission, they see in the Envision building that it has close proximity to the courthouse. It has close proximity to the city of Wichita. What they see in Envision building is that proximity. They see that the square footage is within and very close to what we need right now for square footage. It has a parking garage that is in near distance. So we're taking it into consideration, all those factors. And while we look at Riverside Hospital and see that it has a very small price right now for square footage, when we looked at that building before, there was a lot that we had to take into consideration when we looked at the building assessment. Does that help?
It really didn't answer my question.
Okay, what was
I'm trying to understand how we
help me understand what your direct question is so I can answer that.
Well, let me just add in, Commissioner, as we went through the list of buildings, location becomes an issue here because this is the people's building. So we didn't want to favor necessarily one district over another, so we wanted a center footprint. That was number one. Number two, there's unique parking needs for this. This has to be a commercial office type of building, which it begins to narrow down our options. So all of this, Tanya alluded to, there was a lot of quantitative factors that we looked at, but also some qualitative, because this will end up being the people's house. So that has all ended us back up with this short list now of options from what started out to be a pretty massive list.
I guess my main concern is we're 157 now. Could we get to 250? You know, how high are we going to get after? And I know that's why we've got to take the steps to go into the due diligence. I just look at the new build. I'd like to understand that better. I don't know that I'd favor that, but I'd like to understand it better. The Riverside option, it's not too far away out there. I guess I'd just ask, is there any way that we could possibly run some parallel tracks on this and run some of these other options during the due diligence period if we go forward with this purchase agreement?
Yeah, I think the plan all along has been to run a parallel track between Envision and the new build. If the body of the commission wants to look at any other building, Riverside, for example, or a library option or whatever, any of the other options that Tanya mentioned, if the body wants to do another track, we can definitely do that. So I think at the end of the day, and the end of the day is coming soon, August or September, that we put a certain number of options in front of the commission, and the commission decides which option it will be. And I think the reason we mention price tag, the 23 million, we've heard commission over and over say, let's keep a lid on this thing. Let's keep a cost down. This is the taxpayers are paying for this. So we've been cognizant of that as best we can. So at the end of the day, we roll out 2, 3, 4 options to the commission. We debate it publicly. You try to pick a price point that you can live with, and we move forward with a plan. So.
And if I could speak, I apologize. There is some time urgency to this, and I probably should have spoken more to this during my funding slide, and I apologize for that. But we do have certain rules that we must meet, IRS standards, in terms of how quickly we spend the funds. And so that's going to be a time pressure on all of this as well. Sorry, I'll speak into the microphone. Is that better? We do have to spend 85% of our bond proceeds that we received, at about $13.9 million. We have to spend 85% of that by October 2nd, 2027, and we have to spend 100% within that 5 years. So we have until October 2nd, 2029. So as we go through due diligence and acquisitions, that will be something we need to make sure that we put into any of the conversations we have with you all, is putting together a timeline that's going to make sure we can meet that and not potentially jeopardize those funds or get us into any audit trouble.
Yep. And thank you. So that does sound to me like at least we should have a significant amount of time to look at some of these other options. As Chairman Beatty has said, this is a generational opportunity, and I want to make sure that we get it right. And I want to, if we go forth with this purchase agreement, I want to make sure that we've explored all the options. And you know what? The Envision building was the right building. It was the right location. Let's go forward with that. I want this community to understand that we took every necessary step to make the right decision for the people.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to ask Commissioner Blueboff if it's acceptable, the calculation he just made was for how many square feet, and what was that purchase price? He calculated that price per square foot. What was his calculation for square feet and purchase price?
Commissioner Hall, you're asking Commissioner
on the Riverview. The Riverside Hospital.
Took the total price divided by the square foot.
Yeah, you mentioned price per square foot for Riverside Hospital. What was your calculation?
What price? What's Riverside?
Riverside Hospital. He said price per square foot.
He's saying that he took the price divided by the square foot.
Yeah, that's right. But what were those numbers? How many square feet? What price?
5 million divided by 200,000.
Okay, it's $25 a square foot then. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. what does it cost us to do a due diligence on, again, the Envision building or any? There might be a wide, maybe it's a wide spectrum because different buildings might be more complex than others in different sizes. But what's the total cost we anticipate for due diligence?
Sure, and this would be with our architectural firm, about $50,000, because he's bringing in engineers, and then we're also bringing in our on-call vendors to give us, pricing to review elevators, roofing, that type of diligence.
I'll just say, and I've actually been doing this so long, I've actually lost track of the buildings we've looked at. You mentioned you had a list. I don't know if our list would agree or not, but I was just thinking way back. We thought about Gander Mountain a long time ago. We thought about 150 North Main. In fact, there was renditions of 150 North Main that many of us, the building was too large, I thought, and the parking was going to be challenging, but the renditions were beautiful, and it seemed like in many ways it was a pretty good deal. I actually thought I actually was kind of in favor of that one. We saw renditions of the DA Annex, building above the DA Annex, and maybe, or even replacing the DA Annex with another standalone building. We spent a lot of money, I think, and a lot of thought thinking about what that was going to look like. And there were some people, I think, probably split commission, probably at least two of us were in favor of that idea. We looked at Second and Water, the Murphin building over there. There was a due diligence on that building. We spent money to look at that building, came back and said, we don't like it. So we backed out somehow. Somehow the thing fell apart. Okay, but we spent quite a bit of money and time looking at that building. We've done a cast the net thing where we said, tell us what we don't know. There was a building across the street from Century 2. I forget the name of that building, but we considered that for a brief time. So there's so many buildings we've looked at, I've actually lost track. My favorite building was the one that Commissioner Blubaugh just mentioned, which was at Webb Road in Douglas. Not the old Pizza Hut building, not the YMCA, but the one right on the corner, the corporate headquarters for Raytheon. It's a mirrored corporate headquarters building. It's an office building. It looks beautiful. And by the way, if you drive it from here to there, you can get there faster than you can our election office, just to be clear. It's about 10 minutes down the road. Once you get on Kellogg, it's 10 minutes down the road. The reason we didn't pick that was because it wasn't downtown, and they wanted to have a downtown, be close to City Hall, and close to our other footprint. And by the way, at the time, one of the requirements was we had a 3-block radius we were trying to fit within because of the financing changes, and that law changed. So we did not. I don't know if we considered that after that or not, but that was a condition at the time. And again, we looked at other buildings around the county. We obviously looked at 3rd and Main many times, over and over and over again, and we looked at whether you do evidence storage for Wichita now. What's that called?
Oh, Rounds and Porter.
Rounds and Porter building. I actually remember looking at Riverview. I looked at that building a couple times. Riverview building has a large parking lot, very beautiful building. There were some concerns about windows leaking and things like that, but that building was beautiful, and it would have met our needs. And I think I don't know if we did due diligence on that one now or not, but I was actually quite excited about that one. The price was low. The biggest concern on that one was the move-in schedule. Well, guess what? We could have been fully in that building years ago, like 2020, had we just pulled the trigger back when we started this process. In fact, I'll tell you, before I was even the county commissioner, the county looked at the Envision building. Actually, it wasn't in the Envision building back then. It was before it was Envision building. The county looked at that building and said, we don't think that's the right building for us. I have no idea why they did that. I remember back when I first came on the commission, I think it was the 3rd or 4th time we looked at 2525 West Douglas as a tag office. We finally decided, we're going to go ahead and do this. And the price had gone way up. We looked at the building over and over again and didn't make a decision for years. And finally, we made a decision, paid way more for that building than we would have if we just did it from the beginning. I feel like we just go round in circles here. Now, here we are going in circles again. I think at the end of the day, I personally am not interested in looking at Riverside. I've looked at Riverside. It's a hospital. And again, it is a large building. In fact, I tell you, it's too big because I don't have any idea how you would use that building. And when you buy a building that's too large, you either have to fill the space with things that are utilizing that space efficiently, or you've got to take care of it. You got HVAC, you've got plumbing, you've got all kinds of things to take care of. So having a building that's too large is not efficient in the long run, in my personal opinion. We're looking for something around 80,000 square feet. That's the target, and we have found another building here. So again, not Riverside's not a great. It is a great building for something. I just don't think it's the right fit for us. And I think the remodeling cost, because it is hospital rooms with bathrooms inside each hospital room, to go from that to offices, I think is going to be expensive. And it's a very substantial building, so to change walls in there is going to be very expensive. They're not just 2x4 walls. It's a substantial building. So I have concerns about the Riverside Hospital. I'll just remind us again as we move forward here, some of the stuff that's near the Envision building. We have the Sedgwick County Jail. We have the parking garage right there. We have the Munger building, Ark Valley Lodge. We have ComCare building across the street, which we're going to have to find a use for that. We have a public safety building, emergency communications, historic courthouse, main courthouse. We have City Hall. We mentioned all those things are right there as a campus, which again, we identified as a desire. Be downtown, be close to other buildings that we use as county government footprint. I think that, and I might somebody here might disagree with me, I think the Envision building's in pretty good shape. I don't think it's going to require a lot of remodeling. I've walked through the building. It's been recently remodeled. My personal anecdotal opinion, I'm not an expert, obviously, but it appears the elevators are in good shape, the windows are in good shape, the carpet's in nice shape. I don't know what you really have to do to the building unless you really have to reconfigure something. It may not cost a lot to get in the building. Having said that, I think this is the least expensive option for the taxpayers. We have jacked with this thing for 10 years that I've been here, and even before I showed up. And this is the best deal I think we're going to get. Is it perfect? Maybe not. But we have a timeline, and we moved out of the courthouse because we had to give the courthouse up. So we started a timeline that says we have to find a solution, and that clock is ticking. Is it the very best option? I think based on what we know right now, it is the best option. I hate spending this kind of money for things that it basically is consumed by government, but we have to have an office somewhere. And I think this makes the most sense. Out of everything we know, after 10 years of talking about it and looking at literally dozens of buildings, I think it's time to move forward. I'll make a motion if it hasn't already been made. I'm glad to make a motion for us to move forward. I'll read the motion if necessary. Thank you so much.
We'll come back to you on the motion. Commissioner Wise.
I think just a really quick comment or response to some of the pricing. This is my comfort zone here. This is very much a market rate, not a discount to government, not a special deal. So I want to recognize that it's not an overpayment, though it's not a discount either. I think what will be really important after I've been able to walk through it now, I see that the ground level or first floor and second floor will absolutely need to be remodeled for the uses that we are suggesting to program there. I would challenge us to leave as much as possible beyond that as is so that we can stay within budget or a reasonable rate, remembering that we are a public office, the people's office, and being mindful of that spending. So I'm really curious to see what comes from this due diligence period. I'm supportive of it, though I'm not, if there's other options out there, I'm not going to turn off my ears and not listen. So I just wanted to make that comment that the pricing wise, where we're at, I can be comfortable so long as we don't have a lot of expectations to remodel and that we're willing to work with a really nice office building as it is. So,
yep, appreciate the comment. I would just say, and then I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Howe for a motion, but on the location piece, the government center I think is important, and he mentioned a list of things that are around it that are county assets, and I do think that is important to have some sort of campus-like feel for government central activities for our constituents to access. The expediency is a big deal. We do have a bond sale that took place. We do have to expend 85% within 3 years. There is some expediency, and I wish this would have happened long before I got here. We've been dealing with this for over a decade. I've been here 2.5 years and been talking about it for 2.5 years, and I've been talking about it for close to a decade before I got here. But it's very important that the public understands, and that we understand, the longer we wait, the higher this cost goes up, just due to construction inflation. We probably could have saved $5 to $7 million if this thing got done a decade ago or 5 years ago even. So, but there is an expediency to it. The item we're talking about today is one specific real estate purchase agreement with the Envision building at 610 North Main. Manager Stoltz, I've always supported if there's a will from commissioners to want more information, I think that I would always be inclined to support commissioners wanting more information. So can you, in a separate setting, get your feel for where the commission's at. If we want to look at some other options to do the due diligence, I know we've talked about 3rd and Main, we've talked about the Riverside Hospital. I'll always support due diligence being done if a commissioner requests more information. So that's not the item we're talking about here, but I would encourage you to maybe do some one-on-one meetings to see if we have a consensus to want to look at some other options.
Understood.
Okay. Commissioner Howard, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. I would make a motion we approve the agreement as presented and authorize the chairman to sign.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubaugh?
No.
Commissioner Wise?
Aye.
Commissioner Howe?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner? Aye. Chairman Beatty?
Aye. Okay.
Thank you,
Tanya, thank you. And then, Tom, you'll get to work on getting a feel for what other options we want to look at so we can parallel some tracks. Okay? Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item M, presentation of the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Okay. I think Hope Hernandez is coming. Hope is our accounting director for Sedgwick County Finance. We were talking budget when I mentioned her name earlier, and I said budget director and got the side eye from the CFO. But Hope is our accounting director. We have Michael Gerber from Forvis, too. So,
and Michael, Chairman, excuse me for a second. I need to depart for a few minutes, so I'll miss this part. But I was debriefed on this earlier, and so good to see you, Michael. But I will return.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hello, Chairman. Hello, Commissioners. Again, Lindsay Peruso, CFO. So I am taking some liberties as the CFO to come here, even though I'm not the person listed as the presenter, because I do want to take a moment to recognize that this is going to be a tremendous accomplishment that you're going to hear about today. I'm not going to steal anyone's thunder in talking about it, but I did want to take a moment at the beginning, first of all, to thank Michael Gerber, a partner with Forvis Mazars, who's here with us, and will give you the overall audit report, and then Hope will dig into the financial details. But we also have several members of our team here in the audience who were instrumental in making sure that this audit report was done. They worked long hours, pulled a lot of documentation, did a lot of background work, and so I want to say thank you to this group. They have been outstanding. And with that, I'm going to just ask Michael to maybe come up and share some of that good news with you.
Hello, Michael. Welcome back.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much for having me here today. As Lindsay mentioned, my name is Michael Gerber. I led the audit process here for this year. I have just a few items to report to you. I also want to echo Lindsay's comments just about the finance team that you have here. Certainly very helpful getting us what we need to do our job in a timely fashion. I know they put in quite a few hours just like we do to get this thing done, but happy to have final reports here to present to you here today. I really just have 4 items that I want to mention from again, some of the highlights that we have here. Number 1, we did issue a clean opinion. Unmodified is what we call that, but that's the opinion that you want as a result of an audit. So good news there. If the ACFR that you have in front of you, and maybe some of you have it with you, but it's a pretty thick document, about 140 pages or so. But if you want really just kind of a highlight, maybe a summary of what we have to report, I would encourage you to look at pages A4 through A15. That's the management discussion and analysis section. That gives you a nice little flavor for the changes year over year and some of the high-level summaries specific to the financial data there. We've been talking about ARPA funding here for at least since I've been in presence of the meeting. That's obviously federal funds. You are probably well aware anytime that you receive federal money, that does trigger some sort of a compliance audit. We call it a single audit. So this year we did complete that section of our audit as well. We focused on the ARPA funding, so that was the only program we had to test here this year. And the good news in that respect is we did not have any findings to report within that program. And then finally, each year we do a number of walkthroughs over your cash cycles, other cycles, payroll, things like that. Want to make sure you have good controls over cash and other assets. If we have any findings, we would have them written within our management letter that has also been provided to you. Again, good news, we do not have any written findings, so no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we discovered as a result of our testing. So again, gold star with the internal controls and the controls over your assets, things of that nature. Hope is going to go through a little bit more detail on the finance side and some of the trends that we've seen past few years, but I would stand for questions before I turn it over to her.
Yeah, a couple questions. And thank you, Michael, for the work you guys do. And I think Hope might get into this, but I think it'd be important for the public to know this is an annual audit that takes place. And I would just say, you hinted at it, but I want to make sure the public is aware. This is the 5th year in a row of audits, 5th in a row, that we've had no findings. And I think that's especially noteworthy because there's no written comments, there's no deficiencies or material weaknesses. And you've said all of that has occurred while we've had all this federal ARPA CARES dollars flowing through. 5 years in a row of audits where there's no findings. Is that normal? Is that commonplace? Is that, what does that mean? Can you put that into context for us?
I could tell you that is not normal, especially with this type of funding and the number of dollars that are coming through. But I think it speaks to your team, the review processes that they put in place, the contacts. I know they've kind of helped, got some counsel from outside sources to kind of help make sure that they're spending the money in the right place and tracking that. So it certainly speaks to your team to do their due diligence in that area.
Well, yes. I appreciate that. We're really proud of them. And we're going to hear from Hope Hernandez, and you can kind of go through your presentation. And Michael, if you'll hold tight, we might have a few other questions, but as Hope comes up, I mean, I did a little research after my meeting with you because I wanted to understand contextually, and I think Hope came on in May of 2017. In 2016 audit, there were 20 findings, and so there was a lot of adjustments that needed to be made. Some of it was with some staffing, but some of it was in processes, and Hope has really led that team from this point forward. And no offense, Lindsay, you got a wonderful, broad, diverse finance department, and they do great work. Looking at Brent and Joe, I want everybody to hear me clearly, but I think a lot of the credit to some of this stuff belongs with Hope Hernandez and your team, your accounting team. So I just want the public to know that we know full well all the work you've put in, and these 5 years of audits that are clean like this, I think a lot of it goes to the credit of the finance department, but you've been leading that effort, so we're grateful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Hope Hernandez, your Accounting Director. So as Michael just stated, we did have a successful audit of our 2024 financials in the internal control processes. So I am going to dive into the details of the audit, and the document that is produced from the audit, which you guys have received, is the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, otherwise referred to as the ACFR. So the entire audit lasts about 7 months. So we finish one audit, produce the ACFR, present it, take a short break, and then we start all over again. So with the recommendations that we do receive during the audit. The internal control portion of the audit is conducted in November and December. The auditors conduct interviews with key personnel to identify any weaknesses that we have, reduce errors, and improve process efficiency. The fieldwork portion of the audit begins in February with auditor review of our audit work papers, financial statements, and then the auditors select random areas for testing. The fieldwork ends in May, and that is when my team and I assemble all of the documents that make up the ACFR report that is presented to you. The auditor spent about over 1,000 hours taking a deep dive into our audit work papers that roll into the financial statements. I just want to say again another thank you to my two principal accountants, David Floyd and Cassandra Sandusky. They really helped a lot with all of the audit work papers, the late nights, helping us, make changes, double and triple check all of the documents. I just wanted to give them a big shout out and say thank you for all of your hard work.
David, thank you. Cassandra, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And also one more, just thanks to Corey Stokes and David Adams in the print shop, because they literally turned this report around for me within a day or two after the auditors and I finished up our cap getting that done. So thanks to the print shop as well. Okay. So the results of the 2024 audit were, again, the results were a clean, unmodified opinion with no findings, which is the highest result that you can achieve. No material misstatements in the financial statements. We followed all of the GAAP, which is the generally accepted accounting principles, and the GASB, which is our Governmental Accounting Standard Board's requirements for disclosure. So the GASB sets standards for state and local governments. They continuously put out new pronouncements and things that we have to follow, so we make sure every year that we are following all of those standards. The internal control portion of the audit verified that we have adequate internal controls in place to help prevent errors, misuse, and fraud. Sedgwick County is required by state law, as well as by bond covenants, to produce financial statements annually within 180 days of the end of the fiscal year. The financials are published in the form of the ACFR, and we are required to have the financial statements audited by an independent CPA firm that is chosen through an RFP process. The ACFR produces a complete and accurate disclosure of the results of the county's financial activity for the 2024 fiscal year, which ended on December the 31st. There are 7 tabs or sections in the ACFR, and I'm just going to highlight a few of the areas. In the introductory section, there is a transmittal letter, which gives kind of like a high-level overview of the financials, a summary of the Sedgwick County budget process, and various trends and economic condition. In the financial section, you will find the independent auditor's report that Michael had mentioned earlier, followed by the MD&A, which if you're going to pick one thing to read, this actually summarizes all of our financials in Word form, so it's a little bit easier than looking at all of the individual financial statements. It talks about year-over-year variances, future economic trends, and then high priority items that we have here at Sedgwick County. In the governmental funds section, you will see the financial statements, and those are broken out by fund. In the internal service fund section, you will find the 4 funds where shared cost allocations for goods or services provided by Sedgwick County departments are broken out. In the custodial funds section, you will see assets that are held by Sedgwick County, but they don't belong to Sedgwick County, such as the tax dollars that we are holding on until distribution, as well as the sheriff inmate funds. In the statistical section, you will see detailed information that has 10-year trends utilizing numbers from the financial statements. And last, you'll see the single audit section, which is a reporting of all the federal grant-related dollars. And this is a report that Michelle Strout solely puts together for the auditors. So that is a good report to look at as well. When looking at the financial statements, it's important to point out that in the public sector, our goal in county government is to provide services to citizens and maintain public safety. Therefore, the presentation of certain financial statements can vary from those in the private sector, as again, their goal is to make a profit. Now we will look at the traditional fund statements. The ACFR page numbers for which the data and charts are referring to is going to be at the top of each slide if you want to look back later to get any kind of a reference. We will start with the governmental fund balances. Fund balance is the amount of net assets that we have on hand at the end of the year. It's a crucial metric for evaluating a government's financial health and its ability to manage its resources effectively. The chart shows 5 years of changes have occurred. The chart is the dark, which is the largest single governmental activity. 2024, excuse me, $100 million. The chart shows that over the last 5 years, the general fund balance has ranged from around $83 million to $100 million. Above that, you will see the green segment, which represents the federal and state assistance funds, which are also referred to as grant funds, with an ending balance of $46 million. The gray segment represents all other funds, which is a combination of fund balances of the fire district, the special revenue funds, and the capital project funds. The fund balance for these funds was $116 million. This increase from $85 million in 2023 can be contributed to that $32 million in ARPA funds that Lindsay had mentioned in a previous presentation. This is when we're actually recognizing those dollars in 2024. The thin blue line below that represents the debt service fund, which ended the year with $7 million. The orange segment represents the debt proceeds funds, which has a balance of $18 million. Sedgwick County issued $18.5 million in general obligation bonds in 2024. These funds accounts for bond proceeds from the sale of debt that haven't been used either to pay for the project yet or to refund the debt for which the bonds were sold. At the top of the chart, you will see the PBC fund. It has an ending balance of $41 million. It is money that was collected by the Public Building Commission to pay for a building on WSU, excuse me, WSU's Innovation Campus, and the bonds that the PBC sold to pay for that building will be repaid solely with the proceeds of the WSU mill levy that we impose. The large increase that you see here to $43 million was due to the implementation of the GASB 87 lease standard. This standard requires us to now reflect all operating leases on our financial statements, so that's where you'll see that big increase there. Now we will look at just the general fund. This chart identifies 5 years of the general fund's fund balance, and it identifies the classification of fund type within each year. The dark blue section at the bottom of the chart represents the non-spendable fund balance, which are net assets that are related to inventories, receivables, and other things that cannot be readily spent. This balance was $2 million. The green bar represents assigned fund balance, which has assigned intended uses for subsequent years. This balance in 2024 was $24 million. The purple segment at the top of the chart is unassigned fund balance. That's the amount of the general fund's fund balance for which there has been no designated or restricted use, and this balance was $74 million. The county has a fund balance policy that states that the unrestricted general fund balance should never be less than 20% of budgeted expenditures and transfers in the general fund. The Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA's, best practice is at a minimum to maintain a balance in the general fund of no less than 2 months of expenditures to avoid service disruptions to the public. This slide shows that we are in compliance with the fund balance policy. A good indicator of budgetary solvency are the county's annual revenues sufficient to pay for the annual budget. What you see on this chart shows 10 years of history, and it identifies the percentage that revenues were made of expenditures. What we ideally want to see is that those data points to the right to be right at or slightly above the 100% line. In 2024, our governmental fund revenues amounted to 92% of our expenditures. To get a more reasonable picture of whether or not we were able to pay for our own operations, we use the operating solvency, which takes the same revenue base and compares it to the governmental fund expenditures, but it excludes PBC, debt service, and debt proceeds funds. Again, we would like this to be at or above 100%. In 2024, we ended the year with revenues at about 108% of expenditures. How flexible are county finances? To what extent do we have full control over the use of our resources? In order to answer this question, we look at total debt service, which is the total principal and interest obligations that the county has incurred as a percentage of all expenditures that we incur. Due to contractual obligations, debt service expenditures will take priority, so they will consume available resources first. At the end of the year, our debt service expenditures amounted to 2.3% of all governmental fund expenditures. This chart shows a steady decrease from 2015 to 2024. From 2015 to 2019, we were engaging in a series of refundings, paying off bonds early during those years. This chart answers the question, does the county have trouble satisfying its short-term obligations? This is a measure of liquidity. This measure looks at the total cash and investments that the county has on hand at the end of the year as a percentage of its liabilities. What this chart shows is that at the end of 2024, our cash on hand amounted to $11.03 for every $1 of liability. And then again, this increase is due to our large decrease in our ability of advance grants compared to the prior year. How much are we relying on other areas of government to fund our services? We take intergovernmental revenue as a percentage of total revenue to answer this question. What we've seen over the past 10 years is that intergovernmental revenue has consistently been between 15 and 20%, except for the years 2020 and 2021, when it was about 31%, and that was due to the COVID relief funding that we had received during those years. We see a small spike this year to 22%, and that's due to that ARPA replacement revenue recognition transfer that I discussed earlier.
Hope, is this like grants? Does that fall under that, the reliance on government? Is this grant?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we will dive into the entity-wide financial statements. The entity-wide statements are the statements that wrap up all of the county's financial activity into a single set of financial statements. This is similar to what a private business does. We begin with the county's net position, or the county's net worth. The county had a net position at the end of 2024 of $605 million. Each bar represents a separate year, and 5 years are represented on this chart. Within each bar, you will see the composition of our net position. The dark blue segment identifies capital assets, net of any debt that is outstanding to pay for those assets. That total is $486 million. The lighter blue segment represents restricted net position, and the nature of the pie chart to the right. There are 12 identified restricted funds listed, the largest being capital improvements at $28 million. The county's total restricted net position at the end of 2024 was $76 million. Finally, the light blue segment at the top represents unrestricted net position, and we ended the year with $43 million. One of the most important questions in relation to financial position is, did it improve or did it deteriorate? What this chart shows is that our financial position improved by about 8%, which is a good indicator going into 2025. This chart shows both the governmental and business type activities, and the business type activities are the arena and then the code inspection and enforcement fund. The beginning net position balance was $558 million, and our ending balance was $606 million. Our financial position improved because of our revenues exceeded our expenses by about $48 million. And again, the theme here is the $32 million of ARPA revenue replacement is making this number look a little bit higher than usual. One of the things that we're always concerned about is the extent to which the activities of the county are able to support themselves with their own self-generated revenue. We are not in the profit-making business, so we don't expect our governmental activities to fully fund themselves, but to the extent that they can generate their own revenues, it means that we don't have to provide tax support dollars in order to pay for all of those activities. So this chart shows where the activities of the government and the functions of government are represented by a bar, and within that bar, the total is the amount of expense that was incurred for the year. The dark blue area is the amount of program revenue or self-generated revenue that the activity produced to pay its bills, and the light blue area is the amount of general revenue or tax support revenue that was needed. What this chart shows is the largest single activity of Sedgwick County in terms of expense is public safety. During 2024, we spent $199 million on public safety activities. Public safety was able to produce $46 million of program revenue through municipal jail fees and grants, but the balance of $153 million was required to be provided by taxes. So 77% of public safety activities were funded by taxes. General government incurred $88 million in expenses. General government required about 62% of tax support. Health and welfare activities, which includes ComCare, the health department, CDDO, and aging services, incurred $83 million in expenses, requiring only about 7% of tax support. Next, we will evaluate if Sedgwick County has the ability to pay off its long-term debt through a solvency measure. Here we are taking long-term liabilities as a percentage of assets, and what this shows is that every liability was covered by $1 of assets, which indicates the county is in good condition to pay off its long-term debt. Next is the statistical section. First, we will look at the 10-year history of governmental revenue and expenses. On this chart, the dark blue line represents revenue. The lighter line represents expense. What you want to see is the dark blue line above the light blue line, indicating that revenues were more than expenses. In 2024, that is the case, as revenues are $498 million and expenses are $446 million. We can determine whether the county has been placing its emphasis on over the past 10 years by looking at the change of expenses over the 10-year period by function. The greatest source of increases for county expenses over the 10-year period is public safety, as expenses increased $60 million. General government increased $44 million. Health and welfare increased $28 million. Public works increased $6 million. Culture and rec increased $3 million. And interest had a $5 million decrease. And community development had a $4 million decrease. Within our revenues, I've talked before about the expectations that activities generate program revenue as much as possible to pay their own way so that we don't have to use property tax dollars. And what this chart shows is 10 years of history of property tax revenue represented by the light blue line and program revenue represented by the dark blue line. In 2024, property taxes now are substantially higher than program revenue, $227 million versus $168 million. In comparison, property tax revenue was nearly $67 million higher at $227 million now versus $160 million in 2015. What the chart shows is over the past 10 years, the county has become increasingly reliant on property taxes as the principal funding stream to pay for county services. The significant drop in program revenue that you'll see on here from 2015 to 2016 is attributed to 3 programs, which are the Affordable Airfares, the Elephant Barn, and Public Works. And the spike from 2019 to 2020 is related to COVID funding.
Hope, and just a point, I think it's really important for the public to understand that reliance on property tax dollars needs to be balanced with this previous slide that showed that it's a $60 million change in public safety.
Yes.
The bulk of the reliance and the bulk of the adjustment is coming because of public safety expenditure and our need to enhance public safety, correct?
Yeah, that is a valid point, yes. Okay. Because we are so reliant on property taxes, we pay a lot of attention to the collection rate. How effective are we at collecting the property taxes that have been levied? This chart shows 10 years of history for collection rates. This chart shows the tax year that is funding the budget year. So I didn't miss a date here. So for example, 2023's taxes funded the 2024 budget. The most important thing to emphasize here is the county's collection rate, which is controlled by the activities of the county treasurer. The county collected 87% in 2014, and in 2023, they collected 97.5% of taxes. In other words, unpaid taxes represented less than 2.5% of the total levy for 2023. We will now talk about long-term debt. What you see on this chart is 10 years of history for the county's outstanding debt, each year represented by a bar, and within each year there are different colors representing different categories of debt. In 2024, the county had $46 million of general obligation debt. That's the blue part at the bottom of the chart. There were $2 million of special assessment debt represented by the thin dark blue line. We had $59 million of PBC debt represented by the yellow line. And then there's $5 million of lease debt represented by the fire apparatus, and that's that small green line at the top. This chart shows that the general obligation debt of the county has decreased steadily since its peak in 2015 at $64 million down to now $46 million. The last report in the ACFR is the single audit report, which is also referred to as the CFA. The single audit is a financial statement audit of a non-federal entity that receives federal funds. The audit is intended to ensure that the entity has adequate internal controls and is in compliance with program requirements. The single audit combines the annual financial statement audit with additional audit coverage of those federal funds. It is required for any organization that spends more than $750,000 in federal funds on an annual basis. On pages F1 to F3 in the ACFR, you can see the total federal awards issued to Sedgwick County was $65 million in 2024, and $48 million of that was ARPA funds. Due to its size, it was selected as a single audit program for testing. All ARPA funds were spent in 2024. The results, again, were a clean, unmodified opinion with no findings. And Lindsay's favorite part of the single audit in the ACFR is that we were reaffirmed as a low-risk auditee, which is significant when we're applying for additional funding, additional federal funding, as well as for our credit ratings. Next year, all new programs will be audited. Since the ARPA dollars were all spent in 2024, as Michael alluded to earlier, we will have new programs, federal programs being audited this next year. And we're anticipating that the compliance supplement from OMB will be released in May, which outlines the compliance now, but we will. The charts show 10 years of data performance. This is typically what citizens are most interested in. This is kind of more of the fun stuff and what do they get for their money. So for the public safety services, in 2024, 911 responded to over 507,000 calls annually, which accounts to about 42,285 a month. EMS responded to over 71,000 calls, which is about 5,967 a month. The average daily juvenile population was 38, which is the same as last year, but it's a 41% decrease compared to 10 years ago. And then the public safety provides all of these services here with 1,423 employees. Next, we'll talk about fire service. There was a 5% increase in the number of residential fires, but with the same number of fire stations. And there were over 4,800 annual medical responses, which came to about 400-ish a month, which is a 27% increase over last year for those average medical responses per month. And the Sedgwick County Zoo remains as one of the most popular attractions in Kansas, as almost 650,000 people attended the zoo in 2024, which is a 4% increase from the prior year. Sedgwick County residents continue to enjoy the park in high volumes, as we had almost over 1 million people, residents, visit the park in 2024, which is a 1% increase from the prior year. And both attendance numbers are actually 12% increases from 10 years prior. So it seems like these services are being utilized a lot more than 10 years prior. For Public Works, in 2024, 680 road miles were either maintained or improved, and 528 tons of household hazardous waste were disposed of by Public Works, which is a 13% increase from the prior year, but a 12% decrease from the 10 years prior. And then with Interest Bank Arena in 2024, we had 74 events. The annual attendance was around 250,000. And revenue to the county since opening is about $6 million. So with that, to summarize, Forvis Mazars did a thorough audit on all of our funds for Sedgwick County. We passed the internal control audit, the financial statement audit, and the single audit with no findings. This provides confidence that the financial statements are complete and accurate for 2024. So at this time, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that you may have.
Well, that is a lot of work summed up into one presentation, so
I know.
We deeply appreciate it. I also we've all been briefed on this and had a conversation at length, not only with your accounting team and the CFO, but also Michael and the Forvis Mazars team. So I would just say thank you. Again, appreciate it. Hope, but also David and Cassandra, thank you for all the work you guys do, and Lindsay, all the support work and finance in general that your staff does. And we were able to sit down and really talk through with Michael and the team from Forvis. And, we asked some important questions. All of us did. One of the questions I asked was, what do you hope to see from us with all these changes that are coming from the federal government? And they were very specific, and you've heard that what they're looking for to make sure that we maintain clean audits, and we're going to make sure that, or you will make sure that you guys are complying with all of those things, and we're grateful for that we can trust that. And you have a record of performance to demonstrate that we can trust that. So Hope, again, we deeply appreciate all the work that you did. Michael, thank you for your team. Appreciate it. Okay. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to say thank you once again. And this audit is not just making sure the math adds up. People use the word maths correctly. It maths just fine, okay? But here's the deal. It's not just making sure the numbers add up. It actually makes sure that we are in compliance with federal and state regulations and laws. It ensures that we're handling our employees and HR policies legally. It looks at investments. It looks at safety and security of our operations. It's more than just making sure that the numbers add up. So years ago, back in 2016, again, I don't want to go back and live those days necessarily, but some of the criticisms we had back in the days, it just seemed like we didn't have fresh eyes. We weren't looking at the things if you will, looking for the problems. We were used to what we were looking at, and we didn't necessarily explore other areas. We didn't, by policy, did not create fresh eyes. This process, and Michael, you explained this when we had our briefing, we intentionally find ways to not settle in last year's, we didn't necessarily look at the same things year after year. We look at different things, and we always bring in different people. And so this audit is to be trusted. It is, I think the county has grown a lot. I just want to say thank you to our financial team. All of you that work in finance have done a tremendous job, but it's not just that. It's also HR. It's our management team. It's our safety. It's our IT people. It really takes a lot of really smart people to make this audit come out this way, year after year after year. So you deserve, tremendous appreciation for what you do. There's governments across this country who would love to have this type of report. So we are exceptional in terms of, not because of the commission, but because of what you guys do, and the verification of our auditing team makes you feel pretty good. The Sedgwick County is doing a lot of things really in a way to be very proud of what happens here. So thank you for the report. I know the numbers are impressive, but I'm mostly impressed with the fact that the way we do the audit and all the things they look at come back year after year after year gives us a lot of assurance that things are being managed extremely well. Thank you so much.
Very good. Okay. Thanks again, Hope, and your team. All right, Madam Clerk, I would like to make a motion to receive and file the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubaugh?
Aye.
Commissioner Wise?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner? Chairman Beatty?
Aye. Okay, thanks again. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item N, report of the Board of Bids and Contracts, regular meeting on May 8th, 2025.
And he's waited so patiently.
Yes.
Joe Thomas, welcome.
Good to be here. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, Joe Thomas, Purchasing Director. The Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting of May 8th. We have reviewed and recommend 5 items. Our first item is for each of the 3/4-ton four-wheel drive single-wheel rear axle crew cab long bed trucks. That's a mouthful. For fleet management and public works. The recommendation is to accept the bid from Parks Motors in the amount of $191,720. The second item is pest control services for various departments, and that recommendation is to accept the low bid from Go Green Pest Control Services Incorporated at the rates listed for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew. Third item is various hardware software solutions for the Division of Information Technology. The recommendation is to utilize the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance contract number 01-170 under the category of Advanced Technology Solutions Aggregator, and that's with Logicalis, good through December 31st, 2026, with 2 one-year options to renew. Fourth item is Relia software renewal for Department of Aging and Disabilities. And this recommendation is to accept the quote from Relias LLC, and that's in the amount of $297,646.20. Covers a period of 48 months starting in July 1st, 2025, and good through June 30th of 2029. And our final item is Radio Consultant, Emergency Communications. Its recommendation is to accept the proposal from Trot Communications Group, Incorporated, at the price listed above for a period of 1 year. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have and recommend approval.
Okay, Joe, thank you. 5 items on bid board today. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting on May 8th, 2025.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubaugh?
Aye.
Commissioner Wise?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner? Chairman Beatty?
Aye. Okay, Joe, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, next item.
Consent agenda.
Hey, Tom.
Good day again, Commission. Tom Stoltz, County Manager's Office. Recommend approval of consent items O through double letter A this morning.
Okay, Commissioners, we've all been briefed on the consent agenda. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to approve the consent agenda items O through double A.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blubaugh?
Aye.
Commissioner Wise?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner? Chairman Beatty?
Aye. Okay, very good. Next item, please.
Federal grants discussion.
Okay, do we have any updates with federal grants today? Okay. Again, appreciate the work that's being done on Fridays with the committee. Next item, please.
Committee reports?
Any committee reports the commission would like to announce? Okay, seeing none, next item.
Other.
Anything under other? Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and talk about two items in a point of personal privilege. I'll try not to spend too much time at this, but I'm getting quite a bit of email on what Wichita has done with their the Wichita ID card, as well as it's called the ICT card. It's a low barrier ID card, and I guess that is an active program at this point. We're receiving quite a bit of constituent email and support for expanding that to the county. I have so many questions. I don't know if we need to do this on a workshop or what, but honestly, I have so many questions. I just can't even imagine how this would work. I'm actually struggling with the idea of why this is even a solution that anybody would support. Actually, there's a lot of problems with this. I'm concerned about, for example, if they're receiving government services and they don't have the card and they still get the services. It seems to me that it could almost be a mandate that you need to get this card before you receive some type of ID to receive services. I don't think that's intended, but that could be where this ends up. It could be that there may be businesses around town that need a form of ID, and maybe this is presented, and then there's questions about, is this something that can be trusted? Where did this come from? What was the level of documentation that created this photo issue, government issued photo ID? If there's going to be a requirement that these businesses, in fact, accept that as a form of ID, and if they choose not to do that, is that going to create lawsuits? There's questions about expiration dates and how they have to hold the data if they don't have expiration dates, or if they do, and then the requirements for storage of data. If we need to verify any piece of data that's maybe collected on that to verify. Almost every form of ID has other reasons why that ID exists. So I'm just curious, does the ID just stand on its own and there's no way for someone to access what was presented, if you will, to create that ID? I believe that the address that's attached to that is simply just by affidavit. There's really no requirements for documentation for the address that's presented on that card. There's a lot of questions. And then in terms of the expanding this to the county, I assume that means county services, county government, and possibly the other cities. We have 19 other cities that may be part of this discussion, and whether there's some expectation that they also have to adopt that card. So I have a lot of questions on this card. Second of all, I would say there's been a rising up of requests that the county would fund the MAC. Okay, I'm concerned because I think there's misunderstanding, and maybe there's been some misleading presumptions made by the public. I don't know exactly how this continues to develop, but the county has never pledged any financial support for the MAC, I don't believe. And I think our focus continues to be mental health, and I would even say substance abuse, which we talked about at length today already. One of the things I've harped on recently is that when you talk about simplified government, consolidated services, functional consolidation, shared services, what that means is you don't need two government agencies providing the same different levels of funding from two different agencies. If this belongs at the county level, then the county should secure the funds to do this, and they should provide it countywide. If this is something that the city wants to do, they have the access to tax people as they need to and provide their services at the city level. I don't want to see is the city and the county taxing the same people and providing two different sources of funding to the same service. That violates a lot of principles in my mind. So at the end of the day, I think it's fine for Wichita to do this if that's what I think that's their calling. That's what they should do. Homeless services, I think, falls into the city umbrella very well, and I think they should support this. Our support for that would be for mental health services at the MAC. Brings up another good point. It seems like people are exchanging the idea of homeless shelters and the idea of multi-agency center as if they're interchangeable. They're not the same thing. let me ask a question to the chairman, because I think you're the most, maybe the most experienced on the topic, because I think you've been going to these meetings. On the MAC, how many people is it supposed to be providing services to at any given time?
Well, they have a shelter. They have a 24/7 shelter in there, and they can serve upwards. They have served upwards of 220 people. I think the average population in April was 165-ish. But there's over 30 providers that are pledged to work within the MAC. So just because you're not in the shelter piece of it does not mean you'll be accessing services at the MAC. So I think it's kind of an undisclosed number of how many people would be.
Well, I'll just say again, the MAC, in my opinion, has been the idea that you bring someone in that desperately wants to help to get out of that situation, and we come at them with all sorts of helps, if you will. It can be mental health supports, it can be relationships supports, it could be financial literacy, it could be documentation, it could be clothing and hygiene, it could be physical health, it could be all kinds of things. The intent is to get them stable, get them off of drugs and alcohol, get them employable, hopefully get them connected to a job, get them moving towards independence, and then to low-income housing, and hopefully we set them free to be independent and effective resident of our community. But the MAC can't do that for 200 people. They can do it for, I'll just pick a number, 20 or 30 or 40 people at a time, to have that level of intensive supports. And the 200 people are not going to be able to get that type of service at the same time. So the MAC is really an intense, focused, if you will, a set of attentions on some people who enter the MAC, and a number of months later they exit the MAC with hopefully independence. Whereas the homeless shelter is a place where people can go get out of the weather, out of the elements, get some meals and some other helps, but maybe not to the same degree. So these are two different ideas. They may be in the same building, but they're not the same thing. And to the extent I'm getting lobbied hard by people to say, we want you to give $500,000 or some other number to support the MAC, I think what they're saying is, I'm not sure the people who are even asking for this understand the difference between a homeless shelter and a MAC. They're not the same thing. The MAC is intensive. It's year-round. The shelter is, to the extent there's not shelter, if there's not shelter beds in the community, it rises up and creates shelter opportunities to the extent that they're needed, so that they can do encampment enforcement and things like that. And it's intended to provide a space that is a shelter bed. It's not necessarily the MAC services. It's entirely different. So not that they can't receive some services there, but not to the level of intensity. And again, when the county commissioners traveled the country and looked at multi-agency centers other places, it was this intense focus on a smaller number of people to get them from the streets, give them everything they possibly need to hopefully get reunited with their families, deal with their criminal expungements, mental health, physical health, hygiene, workforce training, documentation, driver's license, everything they need to go get jobs and move towards independence. And by the way, that's why I don't really agree with this idea of housing first. I know it's very popular, but housing should be last, not first. Housing first, in my opinion, moves them from all the helps they need, the incentives to get better, and housing comes at the end of that process, not the beginning. And so when we looked at the ENBANC and they talked about, this came up during that discussion, using some opioid funds for homeless programs, including Housing First, I just cringe, because we're taking something that is so necessary and there's a desperate need for it, and we're moving it towards something I think is actually maybe not produce the effective outcomes we really want. So the MAC is a intensive focus to get a few people at a time off the streets forever. And Lord willing, they get housing and they get jobs and they have relationships restored, and their physical and mental health are addressed and their substance abuse is addressed. There's people who will go through a program like that and we can get them off the streets forever. That's what the MAC is supposed to do. The homeless shelter, in my opinion, is nothing more than very temporary help for a short time. It's the idea of you can feed what's the saying? Give a man a fish for a day, or teach him to fish for himself, or whatever. How that goes, I don't even know how the saying goes, but you get what I'm saying. We want to get them where they move towards independence, and that's what the MAC is supposed to do. Now, we're not in charge of the MAC. It's Wichita's MAC, but even as I listen to city council members talk about that, sometimes these terms get interchanged quickly, and I want to make sure that people understand there is a major difference in these two ideas. And our focus needs to be to provide support to the MAC for mental health services and substance abuse services through our existing agencies and possibly through the opioid funds that will hopefully create more additional services for people who need that. But it's not going to be dollars for shelters. That's not what we do here in Sedgwick County. So I wanted to speak to that. And then the second thing I'd like to just share is a point of personal privilege. And I think all of my colleagues here, they all know this gentleman, but I just wanted to share my broken heart today for a dear friend that passed this weekend. His name is Jose Zambrano, and he is an incredible person who's really impacted thousands of people in this community. He is connected to people in ways I can't even know how he does this. And he unfortunately passed last Sunday, and he has a little child on the way. And so there's a baby shower coming up here for the widow. He is irreplaceable. He's been involved in our juvenile corrections. He's been involved in our adult corrections. He's recently got ordained. He can go in there and provide counseling, spiritual counseling to men in our adult facility. He's very good friends with our sheriff and our chief of police. He knows most of our judges personally. He's involved in the lives of countless people in this community. He's a former gang member, and many of the folks he hangs out with are former prisoners. And I've gotten close to these folks, and I've had them over to my home, and I love them dearly. But to lose someone like that in this community is devastating. So I want to just share my broken heart today. And I just want to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Commissioner Bluebonne.
Thank you, Chairman. When I ran for the office of Sedgwick County Commissioner, my belief as a taxpayer was that the Sedgwick County appraisal process was not accurate. As a real estate broker, I do realize an appraisal is only an educated opinion. I do take the appraisal process very serious, as our own president was convicted of a felony charge about overvaluing property. I also believe the check and balance system was broken in the appeal process. As I knocked doors, I heard stories just like mine over and over from constituents. Folks going through the appeal process without any consideration of facts or data. I came into the County Commission this year with an open mind and have diligently worked through my concerns about the appraisal process, but a focus on the check and balance system through the appeal process. I've encouraged constituents to please go through the appeal process. If you feel your property is overvalued, if it's valued more than what you can sell it for. I've also stated, don't make the appeal just because you don't like paying taxes. It's only appeal because you believe your property has been assessed for more than what you could sell it for. The feedback I received was that from constituents it was a complete waste of time and that the appeal process never results in a value change. As I've encouraged others to go through the appeal values in which they believe it is higher than what they can sell the property for, and I did it myself. I did a case study of 31 properties that went through the appeal process using a thorough broker analysis, and a majority of the properties were backed up by a bank appraisal. The result was 31 appeals with not $1 of reduction, not $1. As a certified Six Sigma black belt, I can tell you that's statistically not possible. The Sedgwick County appraisal appeal process is broken, and I look to a different appeal process that we can have in the future. Those of you that did go through the appeal process and you ended with no result or a value over fair market value, I encourage you to go ahead and fill out the back of your sheets and appeal to the Kansas State Board of Appeals. I will be making my appeals just as I encourage you to, and we will see if the check and balance system with the state of Kansas is any better than the broken process here at Sedgwick County.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to make two quick comments. Number one is this week we welcomed a new Chief Information Officer, Scott Wagner. He's here today. Thank you, Scott, for being here. 25 years of experience in IT leadership, so I wanted to welcome you officially and publicly. We're glad you're going to be joining us, and your position is incredibly important for this community in this county, so we're delighted to have you. Also, just a reminder that we have the Excellence in Public Service Award later on this afternoon. It's at Botanica. It's the official ceremony. For those that aren't aware, this award is given annually to an employee from the City of Wichita, USD 259, and Sedgwick County government. It's sponsored by the DeVore Foundation and KSN. I want to thank them for their sponsorship, continued investment into this program. And we're going to be honoring from Sedgwick County Julie Simpson from Emergency Services, who is a really distinguished employee here and director here at Sedgwick County government. So I'll be there, and I'm excited to once again not only honor but just let Julie understand how much value we place on her here at Sedgwick County government. So that's this afternoon, 5 o'clock. Looking forward to that ceremony. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Executive session.
We have no executive session, which I'm not used to saying. And here we are, 12:41. It's been a long day, a lot of work being done today, so we appreciate the patience and appreciate the deliberation that took place today. We have budget hearings starting. Lindsay, it starts at 1. Would you mind giving us a 15-minute grace period so we can grab a lunch and inform everybody that maybe we can take Tom? What's that? We don't have fire agenda. Is that okay, Tom? A 15-minute? Okay, so just let everybody know, 1:15.
We're going to budget hearing, right?
We have budget hearing, yeah.
1:15.
We're going to push it back 15 minutes so give everybody a chance to get a break and get some lunch.
And do.
Okay, we are good. This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.